OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
7:30 Friday morning. You're very welcome along to OTB AM. Eoin, how are you getting on?
Good, Adrian. How are things?
Flying, and thanks. You've been busying yourself up in Belfast, and I've really enjoyed your coverage from the various topics and various guests that you had over the last few days, and more of that to come. But it turns out you should have been at the opposite end of the country over the last few days. And big developments overnight for anybody who's just waking up. Good morning to you, first of all. Get the coffee in, because we've a busy one for you this morning. Some developing news, let's call it, from Cork last night on the situation around the playing of the Munster semi-final between Kerry and Cork. A statement from the players and the management last night on the Cork side saying, as players and management, our sole focus is on preparing and playing to the best of our ability next month in the Munster Championship, representing our families, our clubs and our county. We did not envisage needing to issue this statement. Cork and Kerry have long had an agreement in place to decide home and away fixtures. This year's fixture is a home game for Cork, as initially announced in a press release by Munster GAA on the 4th of March. We believe the decision made this week by Munster Council must be reversed. That decision, of course, was to move the game to Killarney because Ed Sheeran is playing in Páirc Uí Chaoimh and Páirc Uí Ring is too low of an attendance. So the statement goes on, the decision to take the game to Killarney is driven by the financial benefits resulting from a larger crowd. We feel this reasoning sets a bad precedent. It is wrong and it goes against all the values of the Gaelic Athletic Association. As such, we are preparing for the Munster football semi-final on the 7th of May 2022 to be played in Páirc Uí Ring. We will not be playing the match in any other venue. Regards, the Cork senior football players and management. That is a flex, if I have ever seen a flex, because they have just now sent this into overdrive, and it's a line in the sand from which you cannot come back. Somebody here is going to have to lose face. Somebody's going to have to give way, and it's hard to see it's going to have to be anybody other than Munster GAA.
This is officially a saga at this point, and it's been referred to as Páirc Uí Ring or nowhere. I've got problems with that for two reasons. First of all, there's no alliteration there. Anybody who's got any better names for this, a catchier name than Páirc Uí Ring or nowhere, please get in touch. And second of all, it's not really... It's kind of similar to Newbridge or Nowhere, but there's a lot of differences to Newbridge or Nowhere. I was just looking back through the timeline of events this morning and going back through things chronologically, which kind of gives you a good sense of how things developed and how quickly things have developed this week. It's gone from... saying it's a non-story would actually be giving it too much of credit in terms of how much people are talking about this. It's gone from something that was below a non-story to something that's blown up quite a bit this week. So if you go through the chronological events of Páirc Uí Ring or Nowhere, which is the current working title of the saga. So on February the 1st is when Cork GAA confirm the fixture moves. So the fixtures that were initially set for Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Cork versus Clare in hurling would move to Semple Stadium, and Cork versus Kerry in football would move to Páirc Uí Ring. The decision was accompanied by a statement at the time. They say the relevant capacity will allow us to meet the demand for tickets from all Cork supporters, and that the management of both the hurling and football teams have been consulted throughout the process. The comprehensive fixture list for 2022 makes the best and most practical use available of facilities owned by Cork GAA during what will be an extremely busy period for Páirc Uí Chaoimh. After the Cork game against Limerick on the 17th of April in the hurling, the stadium switches to concert mode, they say, to facilitate the series of concerts by Ed Sheeran. Then there's nothing for a while. That was done and dusted. People were making plans to go to Páirc Uí Ring, and that was that. What was interesting was that there were still obviously county board meetings happening that weren't being reported on. We didn't know the details. But Michael Moynihan had a good detail in a piece earlier this week where he said last month Kevin O'Donovan made the following comment in a county board meeting. For a semi-final this year, with Cork facing challenging times in football, a judgment call was made, and we said the team would have to come first in this one. Us sending a young team to Killarney after last year's result was considered, and I would be strongly of the view that Cork will be welcoming Kerry to Páirc Uí Ring with all guns blazing. So this idea of moving the game to Killarney was considered before this week, and Cork GAA made a decision at that point. No, we want to play this game at home. Then March 24th, yesterday week, Kerry's Eye lead with a headline that says still TBC, and that's the first point where people are like, oh, hold on, what's going on here? On Sunday then, the Examiner are getting similar information. They say recent meetings of the Munster Council have strongly favoured moving the May 7th game to Kerry, with Cork likely to get an extra home game against Kerry in future provincial championships to compensate for losing a home game this year. And then more from the Examiner on Tuesday. They say an ability to address structural issues at Páirc Uí Rinn in time for Cork's clash with Kerry could see the game being moved to Fitzgerald Stadium. It is forecasted that remedial work required to ensure a capacity crowd at the grounds is unlikely to meet a deadline ahead of the fixture, and therefore a switch to Killarney is on the cards. They say Páirc Uí Rinn's previous capacity is below 11,400, but it could be even less due to safety restrictions. Munster GAA's Competition Control Committee are shortly expected to confirm the change of venue. They also say, as was the case when Páirc Uí Chaoimh was under construction, Cork's entitlement to a home game as per their home-away agreement with Kerry will be deferred, and therefore the following 2 provincial senior games between Kerry will be played in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and that's exactly what happened. But there is more then. On Tuesday afternoon there was that letter that was sent from the Cork footballers to the county board. They call for consistency. They say, we have looked at several possible options: affirm the fixture for Páirc Uí Rinn, refuse to play in Killarney, refix the game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh for an alternative later date, temporarily scrap the home and away arrangement for 1 year and fix the game for a neutral venue, home and away to resume next year with a home game in Cork. It is important that we argue our case strongly. Munster cannot just change a venue with 6 weeks to go. So that was Tuesday when that letter was published anyway, when details of that letter were published by the Examiner between the footballers to the county board, imploring them to dig their heels in and ask for Páirc Uí Rinn. But as we know, Wednesday and then of course and say yesterday morning the news develops that Munster GAA confirmed the game will be moved from Páirc Uí Rinn to Killarney. And then, as you say, last night's statement kind of is a little bit of a nuclear moment on this. They said that Cork and Kerry have long had an arrangement in place to decide home and away fixtures, and on the statement goes, we believe the decision must be reversed. They also said the decision to take the game to Killarney is driven by financial benefits resulting from a larger crowd. So that is where we stand at the moment. Something's got to give if that fixture is going to take place on May the 7th, I suspect.
Something absolutely has to give, and loads of name suggestions coming in as to what we should call it. We'll come to those in a few minutes. If you've got any ideas, lash them into us. The idea that the players are talking about it being a purely financial play, of course it is. Like, I don't think anybody's trying to dress it up as anything else. Like, the statement says that it goes against the values of the GAA. Like, it was just over a year ago that Tom Ryan, I have a sense that he was down in Cork at that time, but I remember the statement where he was talking about Cork GAA being in debt to the tune of €31.5 million. That 20 million of that was going to run over the long term. That's the context to what's happening here. Like, I think if Cork GAA was operating on a basis of an even keel, that the accounts were in good order, I think there'd be more of a conversation to be had here. That's the context to it. It's their own county board, I suppose. Like, look, it's not that that's of the players making or really of a huge interest to the players, but neither can you be blind to the fact that there's at least 20 million sitting over here that needs to be addressed, and that ain't going away unless you bring Ed Sheeran in this year and Ed Sheeran version 2 in next year, which is an interesting, I think, subcontext to all of this, because, like, look, you'd start to get the calculator out and start running the maths on it. If it does move to Killarney, we were chatting about it before we came on air, the collective wisdom is that Killarney is, 30,000
30-ish, yeah.
capacity, that there might be 20,000 at it, which is another story, by the way, but maybe for another day. Let's say you got 20,000 at it, which would be roughly about double what you'd be getting if the game's at Páirc Uí Rinn, which is an extra revenue of about €200,000. That's what you're leaving behind you here. And like, look, you know, if everybody decides that that's money we're happy to leave behind, we're getting plenty from the Ed Sheeran thing, then collectively that's what they do. But I think in the context of having 20 million at least debt sitting over here in the bank, how do you turn your nose up at 200 grand?
Yeah, like, and people will argue that there is a situation where Páirc Uí Rinn could potentially get to as big as 14,000 for this fixture if all these safety protocols are passed and they manage to get even extra room. And on that same side of that argument would be people saying they barely get 17,000 in Killarney. So there is an argument out there that the difference may be negligible. I'd argue that a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. One is definitely bigger than the other, and there is a fact out here that Cork will get a game back in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, so the money won't be lost forever, it'll come back. But that is of no importance to the football team and management, who want to win right here, right now, when they feel they have the best chance of doing that at Páirc Uí Rinn. What I find interesting is that when you go back through these details, is that Cork GAA have made no bones about this. I mean, they've referred to it as concert mode, the way the stadium will go. They need to do this. They've been straight up about this. They know they made a decision to allow these concerts in, and they made a decision to have the footballers play in Páirc Uí Rinn. And as I say, up until last week, nobody had that big of an issue with it. So it is interesting that this has blown up so quickly. You would have to have a bit of sympathy for people involved in Cork with this.
It's the reason that it's not, for me, Cork, Newbridge are nowhere, in the sense that like they are going to get 2 home games back-to-back years running after this.
Yeah, like
So
there was no home away agreement with Mayo and Kildare for obvious reasons.
But nobody's taking that away. Nobody's saying
Exactly,
we're definitely taking this advantage from you. They're saying that literally we need to do this year to address these debts. It does raise a question about what happens when, Ed Sheeran's promoters or whoever it is come knocking next year and say, hey, we'd like to rent out Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and the hundreds of thousands that are going to come in the context of that. Cork GAA are now saying that, even if that clashes with a fixture, we're not going to take that, or else we'll put it at Páirc Uí Rinn. So they're sort of kicking that. There is a bit of a can kicker down the road there. If the logic applies in 2022, then surely it applies next year, and it applies the year after. But I mean, this statement obviously at least forces some clarity in that regard. They're saying that if this happens again next year, then we'll turn that money down.
Yeah, like Ed Sheeran's second Cork date was announced on 25th of September last year. Draw for 2022 Munster Senior Football Championship was the 27th of November last year. Like there is that was fixed before the fixtures were set in stone. You obviously would have known that around early May time you would have had fixtures because the early season would have been in place. There is something of a perfect storm about it though, that this is year one of an earlier calendar, and that next year everybody will probably be a little bit better prepared for this. I think that there will be I think people will probably learn a thing or two from this and get more of a relationship will build up between the dates and the rhythms of the new GAA calendar as time goes, because early May traditionally would have been totally fine for a concert in Cork. Absolutely no issue. It's June, July that would have been the issue. So I don't foresee there being many issues down the line from this, but it's here and now where things are going to be very interesting. Munster GAA, will they be stubborn? Will they want to try and save face a little bit on this? And what I suspect will happen here is that Munster GAA will go to Kerry maybe and say, what do you want to do? Which
the Kingmakers,
which is completely ridiculous, really. I don't think they've got any.
Clearly not just in a position where they have to be just told really what they're going to do. I'm speculating there. Maybe not. Maybe there's no consultation with them whatsoever. They'll play what
wherever.
Choice do they have, sort of thing? Like, I mean, because the game is supposed to be in Cork, so ultimately if Kerry get told they're going to Cork, then they have to go no matter where that is. And then equally, I don't know if there's any financial benefit. There must be something. And the home advantage.
The one thing I would say is that, like last year, the GAA could have said to Kerry, listen, you're playing this game against Tyrone here. Oh, Tyrone got COVID, you're playing the game against here. But what actually happened was Kerry made representations, and they kind of got involved and said, listen, we will absolutely move to whatever happens here. And maybe they could have kept their powder dry a little bit more, and maybe that's based on the results of what actually happened that day. I wonder, is there going to be a little bit of an administrative hangover from what happened last summer when it comes to their part in all this? Again, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I do think again
it's
slightly different.
That crossed my mind.
I think that Kerry
it's completely different.
They ultimately, because of the context of what's going on, they sort of have to do what they're told.
And listen, they will absolutely happily go down to Páirc Uí Rinn and play that game, because nobody was kicking up a fuss before last week. I presume
you're sitting back going, happy days. This is just a little. It's a Cork. There's nothing better. There's nothing more volcanic than Cork versus Cork, which is ultimately what this is.
Yeah, possibly. I definitely think it's Cork versus Munster GAA. I think that's the main beef here. I think it's one of your blue ribbon teams. It's the second biggest team that represents your county. I think that I would say that the Cork executive and the footballers would be very much on the same side. If there's a few wrinkles to iron out here and there, I think they'll probably figure that out. I think it's very much all hands on deck to try and reverse the Munster GAA decision as opposed to anything else at this point.
Going to have lots more chat about this over the course of the morning, lots more reaction to it as well. The rebellion at the ring, says Brian Dilling, which I like. Cork or curtains was what I've come up with. You have that? It's Cork or commerce, says David on YouTube.
Yeah, I like it.
The Sheeran saga, the Munster Council ring bing, which is like a subtitle there from Shawnee Riley. It's ring or reward, says David as well on YouTube.
Should we put that up on an OTB poll there? Put up the 3 best options and get people to reply with their suggestions.
7:45 Friday morning, and it's all going off, as you have heard, and more developments on that, I'm sure, over the course of today and over the weekend, no doubt as well, and beyond. OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Here's what's coming up over the course this morning. Shane Curran standing by. We were having him on to chat all things league, including that Division 2 final, and we will do that, but needless to say excuse me, we will start with events developing in Cork overnight. Mark Lawrenson will talk to us a little bit about Liverpool's run in. Obviously, the City game coming up in 9 days' time. Watford to get the weekend underway tomorrow. We'll bring you the sports pages after that. Alan Quinlan will look ahead to round 2 of the TikTok Six Nations this weekend, and the small matter as well of Munster against Leinster, which, by the way, is also not a sellout at Thomond Park tomorrow night. Big news on the crappy quiz that we will unveil the details of a little bit later on, but there is some major news about a return from a past champion to crappy quiz shores after 9 o'clock this morning, and then John Giles from 9:30. So that's your menu of what's happening on the show this morning. And before all of that, Shane Curran, good morning to you.
Good morning, fellas. How are you?
Good. We've got 15 minutes with you, and we have about an hour's worth of chat. So let's get straight into it. You've followed and been reading about the events in Cork overnight. What do you think?
What do I think? It's kind of rinse and repeat again, isn't it? The Newbridge or Nowhere saga, where I suppose officialdom has got in the way of the players, and the players have kind of just decided enough is enough, and have escalated the row, quite rightly so. And I can see where they're coming from to keep the venue in a more intimate place like Páirc Uí Rinn. And look, I don't understand when guys sit down in the fixtures committee rooms and come up with these things, how they're not going to, or think that they're not going to rile players and rile supporters. And we're going into the championship now, talking about fixtures and expenses instead of football. So the front pages are full of stuff like that, and even the back pages. And I can empathise and have serious empathy with the Cork players, and I think they're 100% correct here in their stance that they're taking on. And look, at the best thing with the likes of these things is, okay, hold your hands up and say, look, we've messed up. The fixture is going to be in Páirc Uí Rinn, and then it takes away all that ambiguity about where it's going to be or where it's not going to be. And
in the context of the debt chain, like it's 20 million conservative estimate. Tom Ryan was talking last year about 31.5 million in the Cork Stadium, and the Cork GAA debt that sits there. It's not of the players making, clearly, but is it you're clearly feeling that it's entirely fine for them to be detached from that and to say, listen, there's extra money to be made by bringing this game to Killarney, but that's not our business. Play this game in Páirc Uí Rinn and be damned otherwise.
Yeah, and I think the debt and the football can't be ran in parallel. Even though I suppose, look, the debt is going to have to be paid back over some period of time. Moving the game to Killarney is not going to fix that debt or any other game either. And the argument could be made that probably you might actually have more people in Páirc Uí Rinn in a more intimate venue than you would have in the vast venue that is Killarney. And certainly I think the way Cork football is at the moment, Páirc Uí Rinn is probably more than big enough to hold the crowd. And Killarney, I don't think you get any atmosphere there at all. The debt that Munster and Cork have is a completely separate issue, and they'll find a way of paying that back, same as all debts are paid back over time. And that I think is a spurious argument to kind of to leave that on the backs of the players. To be fair, I think it's a separate entity altogether.
Yeah, and I think there'll be down in Roscommon. You're not too worried about all that sort of stuff. There's plenty of excitement about what's going on. Unbeaten in the league, first league win over Galway last weekend in nearly 20 years. Is there a giddy excitement in Roscommon?
Yeah, there is, and look, it's off the back really. I think of little or probably no expectation really this year of the team doing really that well. I think leading into the league, there was a management kind of step down. There was a lot of talk about maybe Cunningham not staying on in his position. But they have regrouped, and you have to give credit to the players and to the management for the performances throughout the league. Notwithstanding, I think, the paucity of the opposition in Division 2 and the quality of the teams in it. Roscommon and Galway have stood out as the two best in the group, and in Roscommon's particular case, they've played really good football against the likes of Cork, certainly against Meath. Probably their poorest performances have come at home against Clare and Derry, and last week against Galway they were excellent, notwithstanding that Galway probably weren't at full tilt and have different priorities. But signs are good for Roscommon, and as I said, the management and players have to take great credit for that, for regrouping. When the levels of expectation would have been quite low, they've elevated their levels of expectation to another level, which is good. And I'd have to say, my own clubman and two clubmen, Eddie Nolan and Brian Stack, have been to the fore in the Renaissance this year. And it's also great to see, I think, Ultan Harney in midfield with Eddie Nolan, giving Roscommon a really strong foundation for developing their attacks into a forward line that, to be fair, is very on its day as good as any probably in the country, with the Murtas and all the other lads that are around them, the Smiths and Coxes and Heenhans now that are coming in, and others. So it's great to see Ultan back. He's gone through 3, 4, 5 years of really difficult time with injuries. Probably was brought into the fold too young, and his body didn't mature along the lines required for inter-county football. But he's been really terrific in the league. He's played 5 or 6 games now, I think, for the first time in his career at this level. And as I said, his partnership with Eddie Nolan in the middle of the field with Brian Stack at full back, added to that, the Pádraig Pearse's players coming back have given Roscommon a really, really good, strong spine for league football. I hasten to add, I think there will be different challenges when it comes to the championship. But for now, I think it's been a very, very good league season.
Does it give Roscommon a lift, putting it bluntly, to see Galway and Mayo drawn against each other in a kind of championship draw?
Well, look, these are the I suppose the long worn arguments around the championship draws. I think over the last 5 or 6 years we have been quite fortunate to probably be on the weaker side. Let's call it what it is. The Sligo Leitrim side. I think in 2019 we had a terrific championship by beating Galway and Mayo. But prior to that and post that, we've struggled in the knockout games against Mayo in the last couple of years, and Galway. In the COVID times, but maybe the fact that we're out of COVID now and we can get a little bit more fluidity to our practice and to the games, they might hopefully develop and be better. Notwithstanding that we've lost a lot of players as well who are very experienced and very young, but I think that's the nature of the game now. We see a lot of players moving away from the game for one reason or another, from all the counties, not just Roscommon. So I think, it's given everyone a lift going into the championship, and the fact that it most likely will be Sligo. It won't be an easy game, but it's one that you would expect Roscommon to win. And then you've either Galway or Mayo who will have one or either will be out of the championship at that case in time.
Anthony Cunningham was talking after the Galway game about how it was a backs to the wall, a game that Roscommon had to win. That obviously you've caveated already that it wasn't a first pick Galway team, but having that pressure, Shane, and then delivering on it, how big of a momentum shifter can that be for Roscommon?
Oh, they're huge. It can be very significant, irrespective of the quality of the opposition on the given day. Wins over your Galways and Mayos do elevate, particularly if you have a young team. They give a team a sense of being and a sense of achievement. And being in a league final a Division 2 league final is no small feat for this Roscommon team. As I said and alluded to, many, including myself, would have been happy for them to stay in Division 2 for a couple of years and develop at that level. They now find themselves back in Division 1 and in a league final against Galway again on Sunday. And I think that can only be good for the team and for the county and for the supporters. And certainly I think, even the type of football they're playing is a bit better than maybe the last couple of years as well. But, I'd caution as well that league football, and particularly the league this year, I think a lot of teams would have been planning for a championship probably quite earlier on, and maybe the likes of Cork aren't as bad as, or Meath aren't as bad as they looked in the league, the early stages of the league, and certainly towards the back end they seem to be getting maybe players back and a bit fitter. You wonder really what is going on in both those counties when they look to be very out of sorts earlier on in the league, but the preparations maybe are different for different counties, and you can only dance with the girls in the hall, as I say, and Roscommon danced very successfully with them, and again, as I said, looking forward to the game Sunday. The two counties will have competing priorities. Galway will be having one eye, I think, on the Mayo game in 3 weeks' time. Roscommon will look at this as an opportunity to put a bit of silverware on the cupboard and continue that growth element of their game.
What do you do with Shane Walsh? A nice easy one for you.
Yeah, look, I suppose if there's one area that Roscommon have struggled in over the last number of years, it is defensively. But we're very fortunate. We've one of the best young footballers probably in the country in Brian Stack as a defender. And I would imagine that Brian will probably end up picking him up, certainly when he comes into the danger areas. It depends on the sort of team that Galway do pick. He's played or picked on in marking every sharpshooter that every other team has, and really hasn't given them a sniff of it throughout the league. And I would expect that will continue on Sunday should Shane Walsh play. Again, I'm not too sure whether he will or not.
Really, you think that like Galway, but that would suggest that they're. I mean, it's a big league final, but they're keeping him the powder dry a bit. Are you thinking?
I think so. I think that they'll be looking to. It's a difficult conundrum for Pádraig and his management team, because confidence is a big thing, and certainly building that up inside 3 to 4 weeks of a championship match. You don't want to be coming off the back of 2 defeats to a rival. That being said, one of the defeats was probably a give up game, but a final is a final, and teams will want to win those finals to actually build momentum and build confidence, and even I think maybe for the latter stages of the championship, if you meet, you don't want to be probably playing a team that you've been beaten twice to either, and that's a conundrum for Galway to get over. Do they pick a strong team to compete and maybe beat Roscommon with their best players, and looking forward to Mayo in 3 weeks' time, or do they build those players up that are coming back from injury through practice routines and in-house games? So these are difficult times, I think, for Galway. Maybe in that respect, will they be that worried about it? I'm not too sure. But for Roscommon, certainly, the opportunity to put silverware on the mantelpiece is a great opportunity.
Shane, I don't think we've had you on during the league so far this year, and I appreciate this is probably a conversation that was raging during February in the early throes of the league, but how do you react when you see the slew of goalkeepers that we've seen making marauding runs out the field, and I guess managers, in particular Ciarán McGeaney, trying outfield players in goals, and the experimentation that we've seen over the last 2 months when it comes to the goalkeeper role? I'm just keen to get your take on that.
Yeah, look, I think there's obviously conversations now around the hybrid goalkeeper and the merits of playing such a player in the position. I've spoken, I think maybe not on this show but on others, that it's a risk and reward for many managements, and there will be lots of questions and queries that come up through the league campaign for many teams, and particularly probably the top 4 to 6 teams, about what is the best tactical ploy with your goalkeeper in terms of how they play in the championship. I think if you roll the clock back to last year, Tyrone got a very significant beating down in Kerry, where they conceded 5 or 6 goals, and Niall Morgan was heavily criticised for his performance down there in terms of going out from goal and getting caught in possession. But they managed to tweak that around and find and facilitate the goalkeeper and guide the goalkeeper and support the goalkeeper through that phase for him to make better decisions and have better performances throughout the championship, and probably tailor his game a little bit more nuancedly towards championship football. Things you get away in the league, you won't get away in championship. The game is much faster, it's much more competitive, and it's much more combative as well. So goalkeepers coming out are going to have to have a really, really strong skill set. And teams are going to have to then decide, are we going to play this way and risk conceding 2 or 3 goals and risk the confidence of the team and the mentality of the team and the goalkeeper being compromised, or decide, well, yeah, we're going to go with a hybrid goalkeeper and try to develop our football style around that. There's a lot of questions. Can that be successful? In my opinion, it can't be and won't be. I think you have to have a goalkeeper who's technically competent, but can play to a certain extent. And look, the position is gone to such an extent now that we're asking goalkeepers to do a myriad of things that in many cases are impossible. It's go short, it's go long, it's go around the corner, it's catch high balls, it's make saves, it's come out with the ball, it's set up attacks, it's keep defence right, it's communication. So there's so many elements to it that the goalkeepers who are in goal now aren't technically attuned to all of them. Most of them in the hybrid state are outfield players playing in a technical position without having the technical background and skill sets to be able to play there as an out-and-out goalkeeper. And if you actually look at the top 4, Kerry, Mayo, Tyrone and Dublin, there are question marks about the 3 sets of goalkeepers in 3 of those teams, and the only one really that has a settled goalkeeper at the moment, for different reasons, is Tyrone. Mayo, Rob Henley is injured. The 2 Shanes and Kerry have been alternating their position. Similar in Dublin, and the issue in Dublin you have is probably Evan Comerford replacing an icon like Stephen Cluxton. As a young goalkeeper, you're going to go through certain periods where you'll need help and support on the physical and mental side of the game when mistakes happen, because you're compared to somebody like Cluxton. And the management will probably struggle to support the goalkeepers in many ways, because part of management and coaching hasn't kept up with the change in the style of goalkeeper that's been asked to play in the game.
If
that makes sense.
It does, and it's a conversation we're definitely going to come back to a lot over the next little while. And the reason that we said we needed to wrap with you, because I know you need to get on the road, and there was a couple of things that maybe tie in together. Shane, you'll be putting some of your sports performance and exercise psychology course into play on the sidelines in Tipperary town today.
Well, the lads in Setanta have been very good to me so far. Going back to learn is kind of a bit ass about face, really. At 50 years of age, I didn't do the learning when I should have had. Now I'm back at it with Setanta College, but really enjoying it. And the Bauer are playing in the All Ireland school final this afternoon in Tipperary town at 12:30. So I'm down around Tipperary. They wants to clip into a good ladies game. The Bauer playing Clonakilty in the schools final down there today. So yes, looking forward to that. And I suppose we'll have many more conversations throughout the summer. I'm looking forward to a really good championship summer, and looking forward to the league final this weekend. And hopefully it's football we'll be talking about, not expenses and ground sharing and the like fixtures and so on.
It wouldn't be the summer without it, Shane. I see Abby Curran down as captain as well, and I see Kate Stewart trainer as well, and the genes in both of those lineages are very good. So no doubt you'll go well this afternoon. So good luck with it.
Thanks very much indeed. Thanks very much, guys.
Cheers. Thanks. Shane Curran on the line there with his reaction obviously to events in Cork, and a look ahead as well to Galway Roscommon. It's impossible for the reasons that he mentioned about the selection of that Galway team, although I would sort of half suspect that Galway will want while of course they'll be having their main course this year is going to be that semi-final, and I'm sure that's all they're targeting. I'm also certain that it's a good momentum builder from a Galway point of view. I'd be surprised at a game at Croke Park, a divisional final against a near neighbour, that they wouldn't go full bore for it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I also think as well, one of the things that I think we might be quite excited about in a few weeks' time is actually these couple of rounds of qualifiers. I think the knock-on impact of that is that the Tailteann Cup may not get the coverage it deserves or requires this year. But what's going to happen is that there's kind of been a ring fencing of more elite teams because of the Tailteann Cup, and that these 2 rounds of qualifiers that we're going to get are going to have some absolute ding-dong clashes that are going to be between, obviously, teams with Division 1 and Division 2 standards. So they're going to be brilliant. I think that's something that maybe we've been sleeping on a little bit, because I may or may not have just been looking through the entire GAA calendar last night as you know, we're April 1st now. We've got Championship this month. We've got Championship in a couple of weeks. 2 weeks.
Somebody was wondering a bit earlier on, if the Cork thing was an April Fool, says Dennis. It's unfortunately, it appears not. Dennis, it appears to be very real. If you've just joined us this morning, the Cork Footballers and Management issued a statement last night to say that it's Porky Ring or nowhere. They ain't playing the game in Killarney, and I mean, I guess the inference, they haven't quite. They've said that's the only place they're playing it, so you can read into that, I suppose, what you will. Andrew saying Porky Ring or get in the bin. Just a bit wordy is the thing. It's like it's very much got the tone.
I'm okay with it though.
Shifty lad, ring it or bin it.
Yeah.
Also saying that Wicklow had to play in Portlaoise against Dublin a couple of years ago in Wicklow at home venue because Aughrim was declared too small. It was disgraceful at the time, but it was little old Wicklow. Yeah, I mean, Aughrim's not a great venue is the thing. I have a little bit more sympathy with the idea of that.
I actually think that was pre Newbridge, wasn't it? That was before 2017.
I think, yeah.
Like, that is the one comparison maybe that you can make with Newbridge and Nowhere, is that it's actually inspired a lot of people to make these decisions, to be like, no, screw you, officialdom. We are going to stand up for what we believe in, and we want to get this venue because we believe it is fair, and we think that the fairness of the competition should be seen to the nth degree. So I think that's probably... I'd say there's a bit of Newbridge in the defiance of Cork at the moment. And let's not forget that Cian O'Neill, of course, was a centre point of Newbridge or Nowhere, who obviously was part of the Cork management team up until last year, yeah.
Darragh O'Toole says the clanger of the langers.
There you go.
Having that.
That's another one.
And a quite brilliant suggestion from John Claffey here, saying that get Ed Sheeran to play in Killarney instead.
Killarney hasn't had a concert in like 13 years. Like, I mean, it used to have like a massive thing in Fitzgerald Stadium every single summer. I don't think since Pussycat Dolls in 2009 has Fitzgerald Stadium hosted a concert. Like, it's had Elton John, it had Meatloaf. Of course, it had Pink played there one year.
Meatloaf playing your venue was not really it was not really like a thing to be bragging about. Like, you know, Meatloaf sort of hit the skids I'm pretty sure it was the early 90s in a massive way. To the point where he was playing, there's a very famous story about him playing Moat, where the concert ended midway through when a wheelchair landed up on stage, and it was the wheelchair that broke the camel's back, and Meatloaf decided, that's it, I'm out of here. But that was there's a real cottage industry around that whole story there. Yeah, that did the rounds after his death there a few months ago, didn't it? Yeah, so no, I mean, maybe pass the memo on to Ed's people. Get to Killarney. Yeah. It's just not the populace there for it. That's you don't have the population.
But like, the people come from Cork to Killarney, you see, because they're quite close geographically.
Bring them over either way.
They're counties side by side, Adrian.
You're interdependent, is that what you're saying?
You can cross over county boundaries, it's allowed.
One can't exist without the other. That's probably philosophically actually accurate.
Well, I think that there might be a truth here as well, as that Cork people would love the 6 o'clock Saturday night throw-in in Killarney.
And everything that comes with it. Right, it's 8 minutes past 8. You're watching OTB AM, and we're delighted to have you with us. If you have any thoughts about that Cork GAA saga, as Eoin described it, I'm happy to get behind that bandwagon. Do lash them into us. Any thoughts on the name, anything else? We've lots still to come. Live crappy quiz a little bit later in the show. Alan Quinlan's going to talk rugby, and up next, it's Mark Lawrenson on the football.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Have you subscribed to the OTB Football Podcast?
I've seen lots of matches now with Everton recently. They're a poor team at the moment, but I don't think Seamus is responsible for it at all. Probably one of the most honest players I've ever seen.
There's a Fine Gael TD on The Tonight Show, doesn't use his name, on about countries, as in other international teams, using regional LOI grounds as training bases. No, mate.
That's so passive-aggressive, mate.
We're not mates. Subscribe now to the OTB Football Podcast stream wherever you get your podcasts, and download the OTB Sports app.
FBD Insurance knows this sound spells trouble for van drivers. But if you're an existing FBD customer, you'll get 15% off a new van insurance policy. It's how we're keeping you and your van on the road. Visit fbd.ie or contact your local branch. FBD Insurance. Support. It's what we do. Terms and conditions apply. 15% discount available on new commercial motor policies only when an existing FBD farm, business, car or home policy is in place. FBD Insurance Group Limited, trading as FBD Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Commercial motor insurance is underwritten by FBD Insurance plc.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
8:10, you're watching OTB AM. Mark Lawrenson, good morning. Thanks a million for taking the call.
That's all right. I'm in Mallorca.
You're in Mallorca, good man.
Yeah.
Sunny?
Hello?
So, is it sunny?
Oh, sorry. It looks like it might be sunny today. Otherwise, I've been building an ark for 2 days. It's been that wet.
Well, good luck with that. We'll keep you around 15 minutes and we'll let you back to your construction there.
Can't wait.
Post-international window, Salah and Mane are back. It's Egypt, Senegal again, part 2, and a patch-up job maybe to be done for Jurgen Klopp. Is there any hangover, do you think, from a Salah point of view at this point, given events again against his old mate?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just one of those things, and it's a bit like sort of, we're all playing for Ireland, but we're playing against Man United, and they had loads of players who were Irish, we had loads of players who were Irish, etc. Now it's listen, you get on with it, and it is what it is. I don't. If you think about Salah, I don't see him signing a contract at Liverpool, which I think is probably far more important because I just don't see it, basically. I think he'll walk away.
Do you? Wow.
I do. Yeah, they're obviously they've been talking for ages, both parties, but there's obviously not been an agreement so far. Mind you, they'll probably announce something at 10 o'clock this morning and I'll have some more egg on my face. But I just get this feeling with Salah that he will go somewhere else, one last payday, etc. And he thinks he's probably done enough at Liverpool to justify that.
Where would he go?
Good question. Who would be able to take him probably is more of an important issue. Well, he's just going to go to the very, very top, isn't he? So, and would depend. I mean, because he's got about 15 months left on his contract, hasn't he? Yeah. So, and Liverpool would fight tooth and nail in terms of the incoming transfer fee. Who can afford him? Would you go to Paris Saint-Germain? I don't know. You'd go there for the money, that's for certain. Would you go there for peace of mind, contentment with your football, chance of winning Champions League? And they don't look any near winning the Champions League than they have done for a long time. So I don't really know. I think it would be sorted otherwise. That's the great issue. Liverpool don't want it hanging over them. It's like every time, is Salah going? What's he doing? Is he staying? All that kind of stuff. And if they really wanted to do the deal, I think they would have done it.
Other than the passage of time, as you've mentioned, is there something else that you've seen or anything that you've heard that would suggest that this is now more likely than ever that he won't sign that deal?
No, not really. Well, just one or two rumours. And I mean, everybody hears rumours, but I just feel that if you look at the way Liverpool have been under Klopp in terms of transfers in, new contracts, they're announced. They're just like, oh, Jordan Henderson signed a new contract. Well, nobody knew he was negotiating one, and they've been very, very good at doing that and sorting out players. Van Dijk was just, he signed a new contract that nobody knew he was even, again, negotiating one. So I just feel that maybe Liverpool think that the money they were going to have to pay him is far too much. But then, of course, who do you get as replacement? Or do they think because of Diaz coming in, etc., that they've got enough up there up front? So, yeah, it's more of a feeling. I don't know. There's something not quite right about it. I feel anyway.
And to be honest, I'm surprised to have heard you say that, Mark. Is there? If you're driving the decision on the Liverpool side, like short of signing him up and they're accepting, let's say, that's not going to happen, do you try and get rid of him at the end of the season, obviously, and cash in, or do you keep him? Do you think there's a value in almost keeping him and forgoing that transfer fee? Because he, like you say, 15 months, he's 31 years old at that time. Maybe it's a law of diminishing returns. So yeah, which play do you go for?
Well, yeah, exactly. I'll let the manager sort that out. But I think if you know that the player's going to walk away, that he's got 15 months, you'd want to get some money in for him, surely. And I know you say, well, he'll score goals, which he will, but it's not quite the same. When a player knows that he's going, maybe it's only 5% less, but that 5% somebody like Salah in terms of attitude and the way he's playing is a massive, massive thing. And I'd be in the camp of, okay, so you're going to go, fine, thanks very much, but we'll do a deal with somebody in from probably July the 1st, isn't it? Contracts. Yeah, so that'd be the start of his last year, basically, from July the 1st.
Is that on the basis of, like, we cope past Torres, we cope post Suarez, that, you know...
Coutinho,
yeah, we can cope with this?
Yeah, I think it is. I just get the feeling that, you know, it'll be like a line in the sand with Liverpool. They say, okay, you know, we're not going to accede to your demands, and thanks but no thanks, and off you go, and we'll get some money and look elsewhere. I mean, they've been really, really good. As we, you know, every time I come on here, I bang on about this recruitment thing, but their recruitment's been outstanding, Liverpool, if you really look at it. And go on. Sorry, no, it just struck me. I wondered, just on the basis of bringing somebody in, and obviously the obvious point is that actually maybe they're very well catered for with the players that they already have there. If you remove Salah from, and obviously there's the goals, right? But if you remove Salah from that current Liverpool team this season, obviously somebody else starts. Obviously they score goals as well. If you remove them from that team, are they still competing for the league? No, they aren't. So, but I mean, they've got their view will be if he is deciding to, their view will be that, you know, he'll finish the season really, really strongly. But as opposed to said to you before about the start of the new season, then it's different. It's completely different when you know that you're going. I mean, Chelsea, in fairness, of one or two are obviously going to go. Christensen and one or two others whose contracts are up, and they've actually been playing really, really well. But it's just a feeling that I have. Nobody said, hey, by the way, have you heard? I don't think he's going to sign a contract or whatever. I just have this feeling that he might just say, you know, thanks, but no thanks. Because I'd be very, very, very surprised if Liverpool are paying him 450 grand a week. I really would. Because that sets a precedent as well. I mean, you know, maybe Man City could afford that, but Liverpool then, and looking at the team and thinking, crikey, all the big stars are going to be knocking on the door and say, well, hold on a minute. He's on 450 and I'm only on 275, whatever. I think it causes a lot of problems internally. Is that not just like a man management situation where you sit down and go, listen, this guy, he's about to become he's behind Eoin and Fowler, isn't he? Just behind them in terms of goals, whatever. Do you not just sit down and go, listen, I'm sorry, look at his numbers. Like is that not at that level? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, he's been brilliant. You know, from the first day he walked into the football club, and I remember seeing him playing in Switzerland many years ago, and he was lightning quick, but he didn't look. You know, he didn't really know what he was doing in many ways. And he's grown up so quickly with the moves that he's had. He's been brilliant for Liverpool. Absolutely, totally brilliant. I don't think I would say I've never met him, but I'm not quite sure at the agent, because every time there seems to be a meeting, he tweets about something or, you know, and I don't get it. I mean, that worries me, something like that as well, is if you were the agent, you just keep your mouth shut and not say anything to anybody. So it's just a gut feeling that I've got that I don't think he'll sign a new contract. You don't want to end up in a Harry Maguire situation either, where he's kind of hanging around and sort of half-heartedly scoring about 30 goals a season. Yeah. Only 39. Yeah, well, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, look, you know, he's very much in control of the situation, is he, basically? This is the weekend that Liverpool finally get their noses in front, Mark, at least for a little while. Yeah, hopefully. Obviously, Watford tomorrow, isn't it? So that will be good. And we're City are at Burnley, aren't they? Which we know is difficult, but it's not as difficult as it used to be, as we've seen this year. They've lost quite a few games at home as well, Burnley. But yeah, so it will be interesting if and when Liverpool turn Watford over, just to see not City's result, but the way that they play. You know, because as I've been banging on regular on the tee about this, it's much easier chasing than being chased, and Liverpool are still chasing at the moment, but as I say, you know, come tomorrow afternoon, they could be up there. So we'll wait and see what City react and how they react to it.
Obviously, then there's midweek football for the following couple of weeks. I guess the market would tell us that Manchester City and Liverpool will be progressing from this round as well, so they'll probably have another couple of fixtures after that. Which squad do you think is better placed to actually sustain what's going to happen over the next month?
Oh, I think, you know what, I'm not dipping out of this. It's neck and neck between the two. Really seriously is. I mean, they've both got outstanding squads. Maybe Liverpool are a little bit better defensively, I would argue at the moment. But you know, it's like a hair's breadth away, isn't it? Basically, between the two of them. I mean, who would you take? You'd be up all night thinking about if, you know, even a thing like, you know, make a team out with two teams. I mean, crikey, you'd be scratching your head.
Yeah, does it, like, are Manchester City and the kind of, I guess they're relying on a tighter knit group of players. Granted, they still have plenty of depth, and it's, you know, we haven't gone to 5 subs a game just yet. Like, it's definitely a tighter bunch of players that they rely on than Liverpool. They've got a much more secure core, I guess. Whereas Liverpool, when they're flipping between competitions, it seems that no matter what sort of lineup they go with, they can make 4 or 5 changes, and it's so strong. Yeah, you could argue that, absolutely. But you know. So I'm looking at City at the moment, and the game at Crystal Palace, where obviously they wanted to win, ended up with a draw, didn't make a substitution. I think that was just a strange one, you know. And you're kind of thinking, what's all that about? And I'm looking at Sterling, and he's generally not started many games lately, I think. And then I'm just wondering whether Pep's had a master stroke, which is keep him out a little bit, keep him out, get him hungry, and then, you know, the last quarter of the season, whatever, bang, he's going to start going on the rampage, which he can do. So, look, we'll just wait and see. But I would rather be in City's position than Liverpool, even if it's only a point in front or whatever it is.
Well, if you listen to Gary Neville, he's talking about Liverpool being dangerous, isn't he? He's saying that they could do something special here. He's talking about multi-trophy winning season. You're not going to argue with that, Mark?
I think he was ill. I think he was ill. Gary Neville praising Liverpool. You're joking, aren't you?
We've the odd situation of Gary Neville saying that Liverpool are going to do something special, and you're like, I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Well, no. Listen, I'm not so sure because I've been in that position before, and you just need a bad day. You know, you just need one bad day, but in the cups especially, and you're out. So everybody seems to think that, you know, we turned up every year and like, yeah, we're going to win this and we're going to win that, and it's. No team's like that. No team just goes, well, you know, we're going to win the Champions League, because we all know what football's like. We know what loss of form's like, injuries, you know, beaten by a fluke goal, refereeing decision, VAR, whatever. So, I mean, I'd love them to Liverpool to win 0-4. I would think it would be a fantastic achievement, and no one's ever done it before, of course.
The international break, of course, gave us a bit of a break from the usual narrative. The constant slamming of Harry Maguire, we thought, was not going to become a fixture of the international break whatsoever, but the England fans outdid themselves on this occasion, booing Harry Maguire. Very strange situation. Have you ever seen that sort of club form carry into the relationship between a player and a fan on the international stage?
No. I've never, you know, I mean, obviously, like anybody, you know, England have 1 or 2 dolts in terms of fans, you know, people who've obviously left the villages, the idiots. But I think it's probably just the way that people are nowadays, where they know that they can have a voice. But look, Harry Maguire's a good player. He's not a top player, but he's a good player. You know, and if you said, he's available on a free, a lot of the top teams would still take Harry Maguire. So it's one of those, isn't it? And I mean, Gareth Southgate's trying to defend him, but I think the more you try and defend them, basically, the worse it becomes. I think just ignore them. Just ignore. It's people who don't understand the game, to be quite honest with you.
Would a lot of the top teams take Harry Maguire?
Yeah. I honestly think that they would. Doesn't mean you have to pick him every week and play him, but yeah, definitely. He's just not the quickest. So, but it's just the fact that, you know, if you've got someone alongside him who's quick, because I tell you what, he's big and he's strong and he heads it and he can play. And he's not particularly had a good time. And every time, I mean, can you imagine that every time you play at home, even, and as soon as you get the ball or make the slightest mistake, that murmur comes around like, ooh, here we go. And it's honestly, it's the worst possible thing for any player, because everybody who plays at that level, you have to have confidence both in yourself and obviously everyone else in the team around you. And it's a tough thing for him to be brutally honest. And he must, before every game, thinking, what am I going to get today? And while he might, because you look at him, he's a big old piece of kit, and you think, he's obviously very, very strong, but you have no idea what's happening between the ears, do you?
Yeah, it's true, and there's definitely been a loss of confidence. It's just, I think there's also been kind of a stylistic element to this, the way football's gone. Like if you talk about the top teams, maybe the qualities are there, but that pace thing is just so important at the moment. Like, I mean, Liverpool have been relying on their pace to get themselves out of holes. It's exactly how they've been able to get by playing the way they play. Manchester City are the same. I think even if you look at some of the other teams in and around there, I mean, Chelsea, I guess you could point to Thiago Silva, somebody who they've utilised, who they've managed to make up for a lack of pace at times. But even Arsenal have moved towards a situation where it's younger, quicker centre backs. It feels that not only is he having a bad time, he's also existing in a time in football which just isn't great for him.
No, absolutely, most definitely, and the thing about having pace in that position is you can recover your mistakes. I mean, the problem with Harry Maguire is if somebody squares you up, and they'll run away from him because he's big and he's a little bit slow to turn. But that's why at this level, your centre backs have to have real pace. I mean, you look at Liverpool, I mean, even, they don't chase many games anymore because they're generally in control. But I've seen them in games where they just go, when they're going forward, they go, we have 2 against 2 at the back. And that whole thing of like having another person in front of them, they just go, no, forget about that. We'll back like Van Dijk and Matip because they've got pace to burn. And all right, if they make a mistake, they make a mistake. But you can't really do that with Manchester United. And by the way, all his mates who played alongside him haven't exactly been sparkling, have they?
Plenty of them.
Plenty, exactly.
Yeah, pleasure as always. Enjoy the sun.
And me, we'll try.
Good man. Mark Lawrenson on the line there from Mallorca, and lots of interesting stuff there. I think it's Liverpool's year, at least 3 trophies. You'll never walk alone, says Mark Johnson. Other comments coming in. Arsenal fan Tender Chicken says, please stay, Salah. It means Saka will stay with us.
That's my burner. Tender Chicken has the same sense of paranoia that I do. That sense that every thing that occurs in the footballing world will have a ripple effect, and that ripple effect will result in players getting stolen from the Emirates Stadium.
I did enjoy Roy Hodgson. It's not a huge amount of point in previewing Liverpool's game this weekend. I think everybody accepts the way it's going to go, including, it turns out, the Watford manager. I did really enjoyed his fatalistic approach to the press conference this week, where he said, you need to be realistic about it. We've got to understand that there are certain games where the teams that we are going to be playing are not in our region because they're not in the bottom 3. That's it. If we're playing against the bottom 3, we have a chance. And beyond that, listen, lads, not even worth trying to leg.
Oh, God.
I mean, I don't think he intended it that way, but there were his words.
I don't think his Liverpool team was in the same region as this Liverpool team, to be quite honest with you. I think that's probably the gulf that we can talk about between Watford and Liverpool at the moment. But you never know. He's a shrewd man.
Cullum says Cork footballers must have more strikes than All Ireland's. Oof. And Shane saying, wondering if there's no GAA picks today. I think did we abandon that a couple of...
I don't know what's going on. I was like holding a commanding position. I think that people just folded the tent when they saw one contender racing away with the title.
Well, there's form in that regard. Normally what happens is we change the rules and then to sort of go against that.
Or just cancel it. Just call it off.
Yeah, it's been cancelled. Like everything else, it's been cancelled. It was a shambles, is really the short story, Coleman, that. We're going to, I think, try and breathe fresh life into it for the championship again, and have another bash at it around the reel. We are a true reflection of the league in the championship here at OTB AM. Do keep your comments coming into us this morning. It is coming up on 8:30. A very good morning to you wherever it is that you're at. OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day, and we'd love to hear from you wherever it is you are at this morning. Whatever comments you have, do keep them coming into us, and plenty on the football there and on the news from Cork that we're going to bring you in a couple of moments. But it is time for the papers.
There are so many idiots out there, so many spoofers. There's a lot of horse. I think he's a total spoofer.
What do you mean a spoofer?
He's just bullshit.
Ah, no, Eamon, come on, don't be, no, I'm not having that. No.
Right, a lot of the back pages missed the big story this morning because it broke so late last night, but it is up on otbsports.com for you this morning if you want to go and check it out. The news that Cork footballers insisting that the Kerry clash take place at Parky Ring, and if it doesn't, they ain't playing it. That's the short story, and that is the tone and the detail of the statement that has come out from Cork footballers and management last night. So they're all singing from the same sheet. We ain't going to Killarney to play this game, and screw you, Ed Sheeran, and everybody else besides. And that is up on otbsports.com for you this morning. It's up on the subject of the OTB brief with JD as well this morning. And what else is up there? It's the Tommy Welsh talking to Nathan yesterday. His advice for Aston Gleeson: be more like DJ. We could all be a bit more like DJ. I think that would help everybody. Right, here's what's happening in the back pages. The Examiner do have that story, as do a lot of the others as well. But online, as I said, it's missed a lot of the back pages for you this morning. But on the Examiner here, grabbing the limelight, hurling's form teams go head to head, but who needs a title more? It really is the big question of the weekend ahead of the Runner of Gars column is quite brilliant as well this morning, I must admit. We'll be raising that with Alan Quinlan a little bit later on. But a lot of the league finals this weekend, Owen, and the football particularly, I think, do raise the question about who does it matter more to win, including the Division 1 final.
Yes.
Like, I feel it matters an awful lot more to Mayo, to be honest.
I'm not sure about that, actually.
Go on.
First of all, they've got a championship game, which is actually a fixture. They've got an actual fixture in the championship, which is much closer than Kerry's fixture in the championship. Second of all, they got their monkey off the back in 2019 by getting their first national title under their belt since 2001, won it in Croke Park. They beat the Dubs in Croke Park last year. I don't think they've got that much more to prove, and I don't think they can prove that much more on Sunday. Whereas Kerry, I think, they haven't won a big game in Croke Park in a long time. The last big game they won in Croke Park was the summer of 2019 when they beat Tyrone in an All-Ireland semi-final. I mean, they failed to get to Croke Park in 2020. They were ambushed, deservedly so, by Tyrone last year. And also you've got the goals to the 2019 final. So I think Kerry have a lot to prove in that stadium.
Is there not been a quiet transition going on in Mayo that a win like this would endorse the credentials of what that team is about, and you know, the fact that they've lost some of the leaders from the group and they've had the likes of Philly taking a bit of a sideswipe at them, and here they are in a big day against the favourites for the All-Ireland, laying down a marker in a way that if Kerry lose, they'll just write it off pretty quickly. I mean, I guess any loser ultimately says, yeah, well, we lost that because, and away we go.
Yeah, maybe, and I think that there was a lot of reading into the 20. I remember a Mayo fan coming up to me after the 2019 league final when Mayo had won, and she was like, you guys are so bad, you guys are never going to win anything ever. Kerry hockeyed the life out of them in the summer of that year, which was particularly pleasurable after that moment.
Going around looking for it afterwards.
Yeah, but that didn't but it obviously didn't happen for Kerry in Croke Park that year. Like there was I think the goals that Kerry conceded that day, there was a sense that, you know, there was big problems, and maybe they didn't manifest themselves totally during the summer, but they still lost in Croke Park when it mattered the most, you know. So I don't know. I think if Kerry lose, there will be a bigger inquest than if Mayo lose on Sunday. Put it that way. But maybe that says more about the people of Kerry than the people of Mayo.
I do think the league means everything until it's over, at which point it means nothing to both the winners and the losers.
Yeah, but
because of the...
You'll see Mayo in a couple of weeks. Yeah. You can't say the same thing about their opponents. They've got to wait over a month. The
Connacht situation, that we didn't even have time to get into it with Shane earlier on, but it's so mad. Like, they'll have that Galway game in the semi-final, and then they, I think, have a break for a couple of weeks. They have the preliminary game, don't they? Galway have a preliminary game.
No, Galway are playing Mayo. First game up.
But do Mayo not have a game prior to that?
No,
it's not like a Sligo. Sorry, Roscommon have Sligo or Leitrim.
So yeah, they're on the preliminary side. Yeah,
but there's like a month of a gap between that and the Connacht final, if I'm right.
Yeah, the Connacht final I think is actually the same day as the Leinster final, as it always is. Yeah. I think all the 4 provincial finals are on the same weekend this year.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a mad situation. They'll have
29th of May is the Connacht final.
Yeah, so Roscommon will have a month after the Division 2 final to prepare for that game, and then they'll have another month to wait for the final.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, there's something like there's going to be a long gap
Fairly
somewhere.
good.
I'm not sure what Roscomm's fixture list is.
The Irish Daily Mail this morning, it's let us host it. Russians want to outflank our Euro 2028 bid. This is them saying, no, we're actually serious. I know we're sort of invading and attacking another country, but no, we do want to win this thing. We'll watch how that plays out. Also, Chelsea's bidder €140 million betting stake in Russia. This is Todd Bowley, the LA Dodgers owner, holding a small stake in a betting company that continued to trade in Russia while all of the major players have pulled out. And there are a few stories of some of those bids for the ownership at Chelsea that have come across the headlines this morning that will probably result in those bidders being taken off the table, at least a couple of them, as that race gets whittled down. And Paul Donaghy has quit the Tyrone football panel, the latest player to walk away. He was a guy that obviously made a big impression when he landed on the scene very early in the championship last season, and then became a bit of a bit part player later on in it, but obviously lots of potential. Didn't he make was his last year's first full season with Tyrone? And
there were some questions about why he hadn't been brought into the panel before last year, and the easy conclusion would have been Mickey Hart didn't rate him, the new management did rate him, and all hail the new king in town and all that, and they got their All-Ireland last year. So I find it's very interesting that he's walked away. Obviously we didn't see much of him over the last little while, and I'm sure that's clearly they're picking their best team week in, week out, and maybe he just burned brightly for a period last year and it's just his form has dipped a little bit. But the list of players that you can reel off now to Tyrone are going to be missing this year compared to their panel of last year is ridiculous. And still, their league form hasn't shown any signs of dipping. They had a relatively, they had an okay league last year. They've matched that with a grand league this year. Nothing matters to them until the Ulster Championship. So maybe there will be a dip. Maybe we will see the chickens coming home to roost a little bit when it comes to the players that have walked away. I'm not sure we've actually seen it just yet.
The ones that you think might make, I don't know that Paul Donaghy leaving the Tyrone panel doesn't swing their All-Ireland chance.
No, but it's as a collective, obviously.
Yeah.
It's the depth. And
Ronan O'Neill, Tiernan McCann, probably two of the biggest that that could have an impact on them in the summertime, particularly in terms of depth. They're a young.
That's the point. Yeah,
they're a young squad. The proof will be in the pudding. The Irish Independent, FIFA left red-faced by attack on decision to pick Qatar. This was the Norwegian Football Federation chief standing up in front of his peers yesterday and giving them both barrels. Stars return from Munster and Leinster, but Thomond, far from a sellout, is the story that we mentioned a bit earlier on, and we'll put Alan Quinlan a little later when he joins us to look ahead to that game. Thousands of tickets remain on sale for tomorrow's Munster v Leinster derby, despite expected appearance of most of Ireland's frontliners on both sides, writes Rory O'Connor. It is slightly surprising that, without being disparaging, Munster obviously pride themselves on the connection between the team and the fans. This is the biggest rivalry. It doesn't come any bigger than this. It's the eve of a couple of Champions Cup matches. It's a big deal. It's perfect time for a game on a Saturday evening. I just find it slightly odd that you wouldn't be scraping to try and get a ticket for it.
I wonder, is there a bit of a sort of the kind of club season goes into the rear view mirror a little bit during the Six Nations potentially? And
but I think this one, I just think that this is cheeseboard territory. This game is big game. You're getting a fine wine for this one.
Yeah,
this is not a game to Mickey Mouse about.
No, it's not. I don't know. Sometimes maybe you need. It feels just so long.
Virtual home of Irish rugby.
It feels so long since there's been any club rugby on. It just feels like an absolute age because. I don't know, because it actually has been.
There's two stories that are closely tied.
With their top players playing, I should say.
Cork versus Kerry really have no like for each other at all. They really hold a special place in each other's heart, right? The rivalry is full on. I mean, I'm not saying the competition is full on, but there's a lot of rivalry there, and they both love to get one over on each other. Yet, we're talking about there being 20,000 is a paltry sum. It's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Of people that are going to turn out to watch this game, no matter where it's at, if there's a ground big enough to hold that number of people. And now we're talking about Munster versus Leinster not being a sellout at Thomond Park. It's, I don't know, are we really an unbelievable nation of? Are we more event junkies? But even if you're an event junkie, maybe I'm totally countering my point here. Surely Cork against Kerry in the Munster Championship and Limerick hosting Munster against Leinster. Surely their games you'd be at. I can't get my head around it.
No, neither can I. It's a little bit strange. I think the Kerry Cork thing is a bit different, to be fair. Maybe there's a similarity in the sense that Leinster have been so dominant over the last little while in that rivalry, but I still think that there's a sense that Munster will catch them soon and will beat them soon and will get a trophy soon.
I think they could beat them tomorrow night. I think they could beat them soon. Whether they catch them soon,
yeah, it's probably a different story.
It's a different story, I think. We'll see. Donaghy blow for red hand, writes Kevin Kelly in the Irish Daily Star this morning. Potch's free reign, PSG acts would pave the United's way. Man United hanging around for a manager to get the sack is where they're at the minute. McIlroy short of his best. This is at the Valero Texas Open, and that is the Irish Daily Star for you this morning. The Times picks up on that story that we mentioned a bit earlier on there. FIFA and Qatar criticised as dispute breaks out ahead of the draw for the World Cup, which, I mean, it was, from our point of view, it's happening, and that's kind of it. In it to win it, Southgate dreams big in the Middle East. Concerns raised over possible risk for LGBTQ plus people. This is support groups issuing action points to FIFA and local organisers ahead of World Cup, and there's a lot of media out there this week as well, and you hope that those stories that feature in the Irish Times this morning, and fair play to them, continue over the course of the next months. The Telegraph cycling chief urges stricter trans rules. This is urgent cross-sport talks spearheaded by cycling chief David Lapartien could force transgender athletes to adhere to strict new rules or face being excluded from elite women's competition. Again, a story that's going to run and run. And I mentioned earlier on how some of the Chelsea potential owners are beginning to ruled out by the day. The sale of Chelsea has been hit by fresh controversy after the government was told to throw out the shortlist a bid from Stephen Pagliuca on the basis that the club and Premier League must not be contaminated by despicably corrupt business practice. And Reid and signed us from Matt Law as to what that is, and a great picture there. Bring on the Aussies, semi-final glory for ecstatic Eccleston. I watched some of their win over South Africa. Was it yesterday? She was unbelievable. I think 6 for 36 she took in the end. I wouldn't be an avid cricket watcher, but there was clearly something special at play, and she was bowling them out by the due time. England haven't been done by that same team a little bit earlier in the competition. The Sun for you this morning. Russia gets flack in Qatar. Ukraine rep gets his kit on. Refugees City trial. This is a Ukraine player finding himself at Manchester City. What else will we bring you away this morning? The Mirror. More talks. First it's Ten Hag, now Pochettino. United weighing up the candidates, and at some point or another on that whole thing is going to come to an end, isn't it? They'll actually end up appointing somebody.
Yeah. Just on our conversation there a moment ago about Roy Hodgson, and his time at Liverpool. Like, we had Mark Lawrenson on there a moment ago talking about how amazing Liverpool signings have been of late. Do you remember the Summer of Love 2010, Roy Hodgson overseeing the transfers of Liverpool Football Club? Not such a successful time in the history of Liverpool. I think judging that era by its signings is a very interesting thing to do, or at least looking at the signings. They signed 8 players in the summer of 2010 when Roy Hodgson was Liverpool manager. He's of course going up against Liverpool this weekend. The first player was Joe Cole, signed from Chelsea, ended up playing 26 times for Liverpool, scoring 3 goals. They signed Paul Konchesky, of course, an absolute top-class signing, ended up playing 15 times for Liverpool Football Club.
He would have followed Roy around a fair bit, wouldn't he?
He really did. He was a bit of a stalker, wasn't he? They signed Suso, of course, from Cadiz. He ended up playing 14 times for Liverpool. They signed Brad Jones, the goalkeeper, a stalwart at the bench for quite some time. Ended up staying at the club for 5 years, playing 11 times. You've got Danny Wilson, who they signed from Rangers that summer, played twice for Liverpool in a glittering career. Christian Poulsen, of course, was a signing in that summer of love. He ended up playing 12 times for Liverpool across league. The best signing that summer was Fabio Aurelio. Now, I mean, that was the one kind of feather in the cap of the 2010 transfer market team. And then, of course, Raul Meireles also joined in 2010. He obviously would go on to play for Chelsea. Not sure who he actually was better for, Liverpool or Chelsea. Played just over 30 times for both of them. And that was your summer of love of 2010. A different time, a different era of Liverpool.
At the feet of Roy.
No, I would say that
Damien Comolli, was he there at that time? Was that?
I would say that it's a factor in and a significant factor in why a slew of Liverpool managers around that time didn't have the best time.
I have a vague recollection of the fact that it was like not Roy's business to sign these players. He was,
Camoli came in. Camoli was announced as director of football strategy in November of 2010. So that summer of 2010 was such a traumatic experience for everybody involved that they decided to bring him in. They sold Mascherano as well in 2010. Not that they could have done anything about that, but if you're looking at the ins and outs,
he's another one for that list. The Torres and Suarez and whatever you're having yourself, we'd like to have kept, but he got away from us.
Yeah. So Liverpool against Watford this weekend is one of those fixtures. Roy Hodgson, as you said earlier on, just giving up on it all.
Oh, I just can't. Honestly, that's one of the greatest quotes of all time. Like, he's just basically accepting that, it's a great thing for Everton fans to read, I'm sure, and Leeds fans. Mark saying, I agree with Eoin, this Kerry team needs to win a title in Croke Park. And happy 1 year anniversary to the Dublin senior men's secret training headlines and pictures on the national newspapers, says Andrew. Forgotten about that.
Yeah, like that's...
God, it seems like a decade ago.
Is that the moment that we point to and say, look what happened after that?
As in the global pandemic started to dissipate and...
No, or the Dubs...
Oh, Dubs started to dissipate.
Yeah.
Well, I was colloquially referring to them as the global pandemic.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Do keep your comments coming into us. It is 9:15. It's Friday morning. You're watching OTB AM. We're with you until 10 this morning. I have flagged up already, and he's lurking outside. We have a live crappy quiz coming your way in about 20 minutes time, and there is a return to the crappy quiz. We can't reveal the name just yet on, but a former champion, a former resident of these halls, a real crowd favourite, I think it's fair enough to say.
Yeah, like on his last quiz, actually, it was on a number of quizzes. He one of his questions that he received was sing Ireland's Call for a point. And wow. I think he managed to get the point on both occasions.
He didn't have to, he had to sing the full thing?
First verse and chorus, I think, was the question.
Wow.
And he knew every single word.
Of that at all. Wow. Well, it's going to be, I suspect, given the competition that he has this morning, and I can reveal that it'll be me and Shane Hannon against this unnamed former resident of these halls. I think the odds are fairly firmly. I think that the organisers of the tournament have sort of weighted the this weekend to be, it's an open goal basically, is what I'm saying. So the headlines are all going to be,
next week is a heavyweight clash. You're not going to be on next week's quiz. Just letting you know. We're going to do it earlier the week.
Wow.
We're going to do a Masters special next week. We did it last week. It's going to be Joe versus Nathan versus John.
Oof. Oh my word.
Golf Weekly versus Virtual Insanity. It's going to be like a tag team.
Like, sometimes we're having a bit of a gag about, like, what was the faux outrage phrase that I used to get labelled with, which, to be honest with you, like, once the competition begins, there's nothing faux about it. I do genuinely get very upset about it. But the levels of ego that are going to be hit by defeat there for 2 of that 3, there's going to be a lot of unhappy egos about the place.
Golf Weekly took a bit of a whipping last year as well on that one. John Duggan managed to take the...
Oh, did he? Take the spoils, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like Godzilla versus Kong.
See, I'd say JD would be the one ego that could take it. The other two, Nathan particularly.
I think that's a reeling, to be honest.
He'd be stewing on that now for a while.
Yeah.
Righto, it is 8:47. It's Friday morning. You're watching OTB AM. As I said, that live crappy quiz is still to come, and do keep your comments coming into us. But we're going to turn our attention to rugby now. Alan Quinlan, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How are you?
Good, thanks. Let's start with the TikTok Six Nations, obviously into round 2 this weekend, and an opportunity for Ireland to bounce back from what happened the last time. But he, as in Greg McWilliams, has gone with the same 23 again, Quinny, for the trip to Toulouse tomorrow afternoon. I was almost surprised because a new coach, obviously sussing out his players, they're just off the back of defeat. It almost seemed like the most obvious thing to mix it up a bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he's obviously gone for a bit of continuity and tried to focus this week. It's try to focus this week and just try fixing the some of the things that went wrong last week, and has obviously backed the players. So they gave away a lot of penalties last week. Turned the ball over at the breakdown a fair few times, and it's not going to get any easier this week. Playing France and Toulouse, Ireland have never won in France, so it's a different task for them. But there's for and against. Obviously, backing a group like this when they lost the game disappointingly in the last probably 10-15 minutes, it just got away from them. Wales were very good, but it's an opportunity for them to maybe stick together, get some of those things that went wrong last week, try and be better at them. And like I said, it's a very difficult task, Adrian, going to France against a very powerful French side. So it's a kind of a vote of confidence. So part of that kind of feel-good factor coming into the game kind of continues, even though they would have been very, very disappointed in losing last week. And Greg McWilliams is obviously back the same players to try and do a job and improve their performance.
Yeah, well, look, it's a thankless task in a lot of ways. One last one on the selection of it, because if you drill down into it, his explanation around the Bevan Parsons selection on the bench. Firstly, he was talking about Parsons being ridiculous, obviously in a good sense, being fully fit, raring to go, our most exciting player. And then in tandem with that, he said if she replaces one of the back three, it's as if that player did something wrong. What's your read on that?
Yeah, look, she's an incredible player and scored a lot of great tries last year and unbelievably exciting. But I think Lucy Mulhall and Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe have, they actually played quite well last week, and Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe scores a brilliant try. Lucy Mulhall, I'm surprised. I think Lucy Mulhall picked up a fairly heavy knock. And look, we don't know the ins and outs of, maybe she wants her coming off the bench when the game loosens up a bit. She's still fairly inexperienced in the 15s game, Bevan Parsons, but I don't know, I think you'd probably, he obviously has his reasons and wants that impact off the bench from her. She's an incredible player, but I think it's an area that there's a lot of pace in the Irish back three. So maybe she will come off the bench when the game opens up a little bit. But would it happen, going forward, that she's a bench player? She's too good to be on the bench. Yeah. There's obviously some reasons why she hasn't started these first two games.
Yeah. The backdrop, obviously, to the game is a huge defeat, obviously, to France in Dublin last year. It's the fact that most of these French players are on some version of a professional contract. It's the fact that, only the Ireland 7 players are on any kind of a contract. And even that, reading Cliona Foley's piece with Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe during the week in The Independent, even that is not great, to put it mildly, in terms of the sums of money, to the point that most of them would have to have part-time jobs. That's the context to all of this, Quinny, and like you say about a tough task, a thankless task in so many ways, and even listen to the language from the coaches and the players and the build up to it. It's almost as if there's an acceptance that the result isn't going to go our way, but we're looking for other benchmarks of performance.
Yeah, you have to be realistic. France, as you say, 56-15 last year in Dublin. Ireland beat Wales 45-0 in their game over in Cardiff last year. So maybe we'll see that kind of last year's form book ripped up and Ireland going and winning France for the first time. One of the main areas that's about performance, Adrian, it's about getting their set piece right. A number of lineouts last week were overthrown. There was a timing issue. It wasn't as if Wales were up contesting each one of those. It's hard in a couple of days to try and fix that, but you can certainly make it better. I think dealing with the pressure of France and their physical power, an area which Ireland struggled last week, it's just been a bit shrewder at game management, playing in the right areas, and I think they'll back themselves to maybe trouble France and score tries. They scored some very good tries last week, so you have to be realistic here. It's a very, very big, tall order. But if you're Greg McWilliams and the players in that group, they've got to be thinking more than just, we'll get a performance and this is acceptable. I think they've got to put pressure on themselves to try and, take it to France and go after them when they have opportunities. But there's probably going to be a bit of short-term pain here for long-term gain about developing a game plan, giving experience to these girls. They're relatively inexperienced, lots of them. So it's another tough task for them. Having 6,000 people there last week was fantastic. France had 14,000 at their game, France against Italy. So this game, it's going to be a very, very, very big, raucous crowd. So they've got to deal with that. It's a new experience for them. But look, ultimately you hope, and deep down, they will hope that they can get a really good performance and score some tries. But to win the game, it's going to be very difficult.
The worry now, especially if the results isn't great at the weekend, is that the gap actually gets bigger, Alan, right? That if you're professional, you know yourself, I assume that you can look at amateur players and say to yourself, well, things are just going to get better and better for me, while players are, relatively speaking, standing still from other nations who aren't professional.
Yeah, there's nothing they can do about that, only try and get better themselves, because, and to be fair, they're trying not to compare themselves or look at England, France, even what has happened in Wales. I think ultimately they would all hope that at some stage they will be full-time, and that, being full-time, and I know from my own experience of what it does to the player, and it gives you more opportunity to get in better physical condition, learn more about the game, work day in, day out with your teammates, and you undoubtedly improve. So it's still a little bit of an uneven playing field, but I don't think they can focus on that at the moment. They've just got to try and get their own headspace right. And I saw where Greg McWilliams was speaking to the press that he wants to be respected, not liked. I think everyone wants that situation as a sports person, to try and earn respect. So they've got to earn the respect of each other and make sure they give it everything there tomorrow night and are tactically a little bit better. That they've learned from, some of the mistakes last week. And it's the same in any sport. If you're giving away penalties or infringements, you're going to make it more difficult for yourself. So they've got to be more disciplined. Their defence and their effort and their application and desire and everything last week was brilliant. But they've got to be shrewd in what they're doing as well, and learn from last week quickly. So it's a tough situation at the moment, but they've got to stay positive, and I think people should still be positive about them. Hopefully, and this is the hope, that they can be really competitive there and make it a close game, at least, if not win it. Obviously, everyone would love to see them go and win there, but let's hope they're really competitive and they can give it a good shot.
Leinster Munster, obviously, is the other thing we want to talk to you about tomorrow night, Thomond Park. Roy O'Connor's a story in the Irish Independent this morning that the 27,000 stadium won't be sold out. There are several thousand tickets still up for sale. Is it somewhat surprising in the context of the rivalry? It's a home game in Limerick. It's a lot of the big international players coming back, the eve of a Champions Cup match. Are you surprised, like, the timing of it is good? Is a good slot potentially? Somewhat surprising that it's not sold out?
Yeah, very surprised. I think I listened to you earlier talking about that, reading the headlines in the paper, and I was pretty surprised that is the situation. There's obviously reasons for it. I don't know those reasons. Maybe people are rugbyed out after Six Nations. There's a lot of confirmations, communions on this weekend. I don't know. It's a really good time. 7:00 on a Saturday evening for me is a great time, and people, you'd imagine, would be really excited. This game at Christmas was sold out well before we even got near Christmas. I know it's been postponed. It's the postponed fixture, but it's a little bit surprising. But it is what it is at the moment. Maybe it'll fill up tonight more.
It doesn't point to any lack of interest in the fixture, Quinny, does it, in terms of the rivalry?
No, I don't think so. And no, I don't think so. I think, look, and to be fair, we've all been talking about getting the internationals playing in this fixture. We've been given out about it over the years that it's been weakened by the lack of internationals and around the Christmas fixture. So all those international players actually having a lot of minutes in them this season, so they're all pretty fresh. I know it's a very important run-in for all the provinces. Europe is on next week. So I don't know, maybe lots of people are going to the Exeter game or waiting for the European home game, but it is a little bit surprising. But maybe it'll fill up later on this evening, but still, I'm sure the atmosphere will be decent there, depending on where the game is going. If Munster start the game well and are in the game, you never know. They've obviously, I think the last 6 league fixtures they've lost. It's 2018 since Munster beat Leinster home or away in the league. So there's 2 semi-finals and a final in there as well. So it's they're probably badly in need. Maybe people are staying away because they're fearful that it's going to be a Leinster win.
Get out of that. There's no Munster fan thinking that, is there?
Well, look, if you ask anybody who knows about it, look, Leinster are favourites. They've come down here the last couple of times and won the game. Maybe some fans don't want to see that. They're sick of it, maybe. But look, Leinster are very strong. Munster need to turn the tide and win this fixture. You know, when they won last year, it was 6 in a row.
Is that now what Munster fans pride themselves on? Our backs are against the wall. Nobody expects us to do it, particularly against Leinster, and we're going to get out there and we're going to support our team over the line, and that's what we're about.
Yeah, I know. I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, they are. And you know, my experience of Munster fans over the years has been sensational. It's just been unbelievable to have them behind you and supporting it. But there's obviously some other reasons. I don't know. Maybe people will buy tickets today and there'll be a late surge that will fill up. But there probably is a little bit of a fear as well that I'm sure the 20,000 that are in there, I don't know how many are coming down from Leinster, but I'm sure the 20,000 that it's been mentioned at the moment, that's how many are sold. It could be more. I'm sure they're diehard, passionate rugby fans who want their team to do well. So I'm sure the support will be unbelievable there tonight anyway.
At what point does this start becoming like a quite a pressurised situation for Munster in this fixture against Leinster? Because, like, of course, on paper you would say Leinster are better, but they're not that much better than Munster on paper. When you look at some of the players that Munster have, like it's almost about time that this one-sided rivalry starts to turn a little bit.
It's pressure every time in this fixture. I've always said it, and lots of former Leinster and Munster players have said it openly as well. It's a different week. You know, it's one you want to win. The headspace is totally different. There's a buzz and a nervous excitement. I must say, I didn't, even though I loved playing in the fixture, I didn't, and I've heard players say it as well, that they didn't particularly enjoy the week because it was just some sort of a different sort of nervousness. You know, when you play big European games or semi-finals or finals, there's a nervous excitement and you really kind of look forward and you enjoy the whole thing. I didn't always enjoy this week because, I don't know, it was maybe out of a fear of losing the game or just that you couldn't predict what was going to happen, particularly when the teams were probably more even and the results were over and back, if you know what I mean. But there's pressure in this fixture every time. I think, you know, Munster have lost 6. Munster won the Rainbow Cup fixture last year to kind of stop it being 7 in a row. But that 6 in a row was the most in this fixture, the most games Munster have lost in this fixture. So I think I've said it every time they've played in the last couple of years. There's pressure and a desperation for Munster to win this fixture. I think Leinster now are probably in a more comfortable headspace as regards, you know, they've got a very dominant run going in this fixture. So there is a desperation and a need for Munster to try and get a result and win this fixture. But you're talking about the quality of players. I think the balance that Leinster have, it's very evident on that there's so much depth. If you even look at the team that played against Connacht last week that Leinster put out, I know there was the red card with Tom Daly, but the second half performance, the accuracy and the tries they scored, there's probably 13 or 14 players that come into the side from that team last week. So and they're all internationals, you know. So that top level quality, experience, mental strength is there in abundance. And I think Munster are trying to grow that. Certain areas they're a little bit weaker than what Leinster are at. So for them tonight, they've just got to, without doubt, and it goes without saying, you've got to bring a physicality to this fixture and a real despair, if you like, to try and win it. But you get an opportunity or two, you've got to take it. And I think Leinster have taken them in the last couple of years and been more accurate in what they've been trying to do. So that's what Munster need to do to try and be in with a shout of winning this fixture.
There's a real rallying cry from Ronan O'Gara in the Examiner this morning as well. He's talking about, he says, and he sort of couches it in the bear with me type phraseology, but that the Leinster game for Munster this weekend is more important in the long term than the back-to-back Exeter games.
I don't know. Is it? I'm not entirely disagreeing with Ronan. I do believe psychologically they've got to beat a full-strength Leinster team to kind of turn that page. You know, winning in that Rainbow Cup game last year, Adrian, you know yourself, and everybody knows that was a second-string stroke third-string Leinster side. Some very good players in the field. It was a very strong Munster side, and they had a chance of winning silverware. It obviously went pear-shaped after that from them. They didn't win the Rainbow Cup. But I think psychologically, yes, you've got to try and turn that page and get a different outcome. But I think Europe next couple of weeks as well. If Munster lose the game tonight, I don't think there's any shame in that, and it's kind of not me throwing in the towel either. Because if I was preparing for this game this week, I'd be incredibly determined to try and win, no matter who Leinster put out. But I think Europe in the next 2 weeks is incredibly important as well, because you get into a quarter final, if you win those, if you come out of those back-to-back games, and there's a lot to take from that as well. You're talking about, but I think there's a lot as well, not just the fixture and the league points. For Munster to try and get in the top two, they've got to win this fixture. They've probably got to go to Kingspan Stadium in Ulster and win that one as well, because least we forget, this is the first of two Munster games in the league. There's going to be another one in May, and you never know, they may meet in the knockout stages as well. So yeah, look, there's a lot of relevance to what he's saying. Mentally, it would be huge. It would be huge if Munster were to win this game, but Leinster are favourites, and rightly so.
You're calling it for Leinster, are you?
I find it hard not to. I'd love to, and I'd probably call Munster a few times in this fixture. Do I feel that this is the one? Well, they're missing players in the back three: Earls, Conway, Mike Haley, I think Thibault as well. So and Leinster do and have been very shrewd in their kicking game and hurting their back three and putting pressure on them. When you think Waddle faced him, James Lowe, Jimmy O'Brien, Keenan, you know, the two of those guys are starting throughout the Six Nations. So I'd be fearful, particularly in that area. The front row, they obviously have more quality as well there. And, you know, if Dan Sheehan plays and he's running riot, very hard to stop his flow. So you've got to be realistic. I think Munster will rally and really throw the kitchen sink in them. And for them, Adrian, to have any chance to get a result, they've got to, you know, if they get a half a break or even a line break, they've got to make sure that they execute, because that's where Leinster have been very good in this fixture. Just different pressure points, being ruthless when they get into the scoring areas, and Munster haven't. But I think Munster have a great chance, and I think they will run Leinster close in this game.
One last one just to wrap before we leave you quickly, Quinny, if you will. Chris Cleeta off, confirmed this week to join Johan van Graan at Bath. Damien Dialande leaving for somewhere outside of Europe. Who knows? Would you have wanted either of those to stay?
I don't want to be disrespectful to either of them. I think, given the number of young back rows that have come through that are kind of there now, that there's optimism about John Hadnett, Ken Dillon, Jack O'Sullivan. I think, you know, it's no surprise that Chris Cleeta is gone. I think he's been a very good servant, and anytime I've seen him play over the last number of years, he puts everything in it. He's had injuries, so it's not a surprise he's gone. I think if you were keeping one of them, you'd love to keep Dialande. I know Malachi Fekitoa is coming in, but I would have loved to have kept Dialande there, because we haven't seen. I think it was Jerry Thornley during the week said it, and it's very true. We never really got to know Damien Dialande. What a wonderful player, and to be fair to him, and neither of those players, you can't fault them for the effort and the commitment they've shown and tried to show in a Munster jersey. But he's world class, Dialande, and it's he's a top class player. But hopefully Fekitoa will come in and give them something different, and hopefully they're on the right track of developing their game a little bit. There's still a lot of uncertainty. Obviously the coach's announcement, it's not going to come out on April Fool's Day. I thought it would come out this week. It was being speculated, so I think it'll probably be early next week where we'll know who the head coach is and what the plan is going forward.
Yeah, I'd normally say at this point of the week, enjoy the rugby over the weekend, Quinny. It doesn't hugely apply to events tomorrow night. But
you're a Connacht man, Adrian. I keep saying
Get out of it. Time to kill his mic. Go man.
Cheers, lads.
Thanks, Alan Quinlan, on the line there. It's a nightmare for me tomorrow night on. Absolute nightmare. My wife is going out and I have to put the kids to bed. The match is at 7 o'clock. It's a total disaster. Even if it was at 8 o'clock, I could get them to bed a little bit early. There's 3 of them now. It's a disaster. The idea of a cheese board and wine is totally off the table. If I get to see bits and pieces of the first half, I'll be doing well. The entirety of the second half I'd be delighted with. Maybe that's the time where the cheese board comes out.
I mean, life is really tough.
It's a disaster. It honestly is.
Wine and cheese board, yeah.
Even just to sit down and without distraction watch the game.
Yeah, by the game, you got to be careful here. There's Cork and Watford people potentially listening. Yeah. The game could be something very different to them. Well,
that's what I'm talking about. Dara says we're talking about the crappy quiz and the return of a past master, a former champion.
The Yoda of the quiz.
The Yoda of the quiz. Dara's wondering, it's not Kilban by any chance. The Ackle Jackal.
The Ackle Jackal is a very good one. I never thought of that one.
But it's not him. Stephen says Raul Morelos was pretty good for Chelsea. Great, especially in the Champions League game, scoring a goal against Benfica to get us to semi-final against Barca and eventually beating Munich in the final. So that's what he's feeling about that on. That's his take right there. Okay, still loads of comments coming into us, and a reminder that you're watching OTB AM. It is 9:10 Friday morning. We're brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. We've been promising it all morning. The big reveal, the return to the crappy quiz after these.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
After we imploded in the league last year, I wasn't right for a long time.
Keep up to date with the latest WSL action.
Something else that I wish we did have more of in the Irish setup was that psychological support.
And the biggest interviews.
When you're an elite athlete and that's just part of who you are, to have that taken away from you is almost more destabilising than going through something like chemo.
Subscribe to the Koi Gig podcast stream on the OTB Sports app now.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Chris Bond.
Oh, you're kidding me. September. Kyle Lafferty.
Are you joking me?
Is that right?
I know, it's not right.
Anybody else? Leash, was it?
That is one of the most stupid questions.
Darius Vassell? Seriously, you all need to just stay quiet. This is getting really annoying doing this quiz.
What is going on here?
Welcome along to the shoutiest segment on Irish radio. It's the scintillating, it's the stupefying, it's the splendido crappy quiz. Every Friday we pit 3 of Team Off the Ball up against each other in a no-holds-barred quiz of sporting factoids at the end of the week. First of all, a shout out to listener Paddy O'Brien, who left a comment in the YouTube comments of our last crappy quiz video. He said, "Can you get more attractive people to take part in this quiz? Too much pastiness on for a Friday evening." So without further ado, allow me to welcome today's contestants. Our first contestant is ready to sit back in his chic Dublin studio apartment and laugh at the brutish culchies of Munster trying to take his Leinster boys down this weekend. The Chateau Lynch badge will never taste so sweet. Victory once again for this metropolitan man of modernity. Give it up for Adrian, who's your daddy Barry.
Chateau Lynch what?
Badge.
I know you're saying it with confidence. A good man. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Give it a Google.
Sounds like I'd like to have
let yourself down there.
I'd like to have a lash off that. If anybody wants to send me in a bottle, I'll take it, yeah.
Our next contestant was the 16th man for Monaghan last week in their crunch game against Dublin and Clonus. And when I say he was the 16th man, I mean it literally, because this contestant in his full Monaghan kit with a number on the jersey had to be wrestled from the pitch as he tried to link arms with his countymen for our Ron Aveen. Give it up for the great miner Shane Hannon.
Thank you, lads. Trying to live out my dreams through a tight player fit jersey. Doesn't work, but I tried.
I beg to differ. Thought you fitted right in with everybody.
Whose jersey was it? Did you get did you buy that and print that on to make it look like as if you knew somebody?
Good family friend is Niall Curran's the county midfielder, so it was in tribute to the big man.
Man.
Our last contestant today is making his long-awaited return to the quiz after 5.5 years. Like the Undertaker, waking up at his own funeral, the most furious radio staff member of all time is here to conquer the very game he created. A big warm welcome back to APM, angry producer Mick.
Hey, we needed some effects there, didn't we?
Haven't heard that in a long time.
It's the silence that makes it.
Wow.
It's the build-up was a bit ridiculous. I don't think anybody's going to remember my previous escapades in this quiz, except me. Because I was listening a couple of weeks ago and I heard about this league table, this fabled league table that someone's gone to a lot of work. And it reminded me of, you know, football being invented in 1992, Eoin. And the crappy quiz wasn't invented when it went onto YouTube. And there's a person missing off that list of winners. And that person is me. And I'm here to right some wrongs.
Oh, absolutely. Wow. I was saying to Adrian earlier on, your last question in the quiz was singing Ireland's Call.
Oh my God.
You got the point for it, I think.
I didn't actually. I got the last word wrong. I remember, yeah. No, well, the last line wrong.
That one, unfortunately, not on YouTube, but we might bring that question back in a few weeks' time.
The difficulty of being labelled angry producer Mick 5 years later in, like, you know, middle-aged, bit more mild-mannered Mick.
Yeah. Mild-mannered father Mick, the
Father Mick. We just call him Father Mick.
As ever, the format is the classic crappy quiz with a series of questions on a range of themes, and it's onto the slip and slide of trivia, which is the rapid fire round. You can podcast a crappy quiz on otbsports.com or on the OTB Sports app. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to click the thumbs up, even if we contribute nothing but misery to your day. Any questions, we'd love to have them in if you send them via postcard to Crappy Quiz Quizmaster, Off the Ball Towers, Marconi House, Diggs Lane, Dublin 2. Round 1 is the boring questions round. It's never multiple choice. Adrian, who is the top senior international goal scorer that appeared in Stephen Kenny's most recent Republic of Ireland squad?
Was he in that squad or not?
Oh, yeah.
Who are you thinking?
He wasn't in it. Was he injured?
You can think out loud. Nobody's going to steal your answer.
I am currently thinking out loud without actually revealing who I believe it to be. I'm pretty sure he is, but was he in the squad or not? Of course, is the question on. But I'm going to go for it anyway. Shane Duffy.
No. Shane Duffy played against Belgium.
Yeah. No, it's not Shane Duffy. Anyone?
Well, I was going to say Shane Duffy.
No, it's James McLean.
Oh, of course.
Right. Shane Long was one I thought that you were possibly considering. Shane Long potentially, but no, it seems his international days are done. Shane, question one for you. Canada have made it back to the World Cup. Can you name any Canadian footballer who has played in the Premier League?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Thomas Radzinski?
Correct.
That's an answer.
That was the obvious one. There was one other that I might have gone for. Junior Hoylett is Canadian.
Oh, yeah.
The other ones, Scott Arfield, Jim Brennan, Theo Corbeanu, Terry Dunfield, David Edgar, Craig Forrest, Simeon Jackson,
Craig Forrest,
Paul Salteri, and Frank Yallop.
What if you had said, of course, like Begovic or someone who is technically Canadian, but...
No, I don't think you would have agreed. I think that would have been ruled out, Mick.
Yeah, I would have.
And rightly so.
As you know, the rules are very stringent.
Mick, your first question. Which county sits atop the National Hurling League Roll of Honour alongside Kilkenny?
It's a multiple choice question again, of course, which is an easy sort of reintroduction.
Cork?
Tipperary and Kilkenny both have 19 league titles.
Not even multiple choice for Mick. It should have been right in his wheelhouse. He's rattled. He's back. His first quiz back, Shane. He's rattled.
And he gave me a hurling question first and everything.
Pressure's on, lads.
Yeah.
Round 2 is the Birds of Play round after Troy Parrott's 97th minute winner against Lithuania on Tuesday night. The answer to these questions will all be a type of bird. Adrian, name the NHL team based in Pittsburgh.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Easy.
Well, easy for you. Easy for you. As the great Larry would say, but easy if you know the answer, Mick.
I'll tell you why it's easy after you don't get it.
Pittsburgh. It's going to have to be something like, as I try to rattle through some birds beginning with P. Pittsburgh pheasants. No, that's not my answer. It's
so we can give multiple answers, can we? Yeah.
I'm going to go for the Pittsburgh Pelicans.
Oh,
damn it!
Penguins.
It's the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah. I mean, in no way related to what I was, but close.
What was your rationale? Alliteration.
P.
Yeah, fair enough. Shane, name the Bows player who won 3 consecutive Golden Boots in the League of Ireland.
Stop! No, that's
2003.
that's a tap in. Get out of it.
Glen Crowe.
Stop.
Shane Hannon's taking a 2-0 lead.
That was so simple.
He got multiple choice with his first question. That was like a 2-yard tap in with no keeper.
Mick,
Sure, lads, come on.
what is the highest flying bird nickname-wise in English football, judging by current league position?
He got Glen Crowe. I have to think of 96 birds or 96 football teams. Is it 92? 92. The Crystal Palace Eagles.
Correct. Good answer.
I would have gone for the Swans.
Crystal Palace Eagles. Round 3 is the Pass the Parcel of Doom round. I will explain this for our listeners and potentially for Mick in this round. All you got to do is give me a name that is on a list of names that I have in front of me, and then the Parcel of Doom passes on to the next contestant, who then also has to give me a name from the same list. We'll keep moving through the list until one of you gives me an incorrect answer or can't give me an answer, at which point you will be eliminated. And when 2 players are eliminated, the remaining player gets that point. We do it 2 more times.
This round brings me out in cold sweat. It might be the fact that the studio is boiling, but my palms are sweaty here.
Adrian, can you name a city that has hosted a FIFA World Cup final?
London.
London is correct. Shane.
Paris.
Paris is correct. Mick.
Moscow.
Moscow is also correct. Back to you, Adrian.
Rio.
Rio is correct. Shane.
Montevideo.
Montevideo, the first one.
Woof, good man.
Mick.
Johannesburg.
Johannesburg.
New York.
No.
Was it not New York?
It was not New York, no. You're out. Shane?
Where was that
game? Gothenburg.
Gothenburg is not correct.
Oh, yes!
Not correct. Mick gets the point. Anything left in the wheelhouse, Mick? Anything you
That's irrelevant, though.
It is irrelevant. The remaining
Mexico City.
Mexico City would have done. Berlin, Bern, Buenos Aires, Los Angeles was the answer you're probably looking for, Adrian. Madrid, Munich, Rome, Santiago, Stockholm.
Berlin and Madrid.
Not Gothenburg.
Stockholm, of course. We should have gone for a while longer there, lads.
Writing down
It's
things.
a blank email.
On his Wikipedia page, he had Berlin.
That's right, yeah. And I still went for the wrong answer. It was incredible.
And Yokohama was the other one. Shane.
Oh, I've got no notes for the numbers round later.
An
ex-rookie.
That is a real rookie move. Shane, you're starting us off on this one. Can you name any of the nicknames associated with GAA counties of Connacht or Leinster? Some counties may have multiple names, so once one county appears in an answer, you can no longer refer to that county. So, just for brevity's sake, we're only doing Connacht and Leinster counties today. Shane, you're first up.
What's this?
Okay.
County nicknames.
Okay. The wee county.
The wee county. Louth, yes. It is Mick next up.
The Faithful County.
The Faithful County, yes indeed.
The Royals.
The Royals.
The Garden County.
The Garden County, yeah.
The Lake County.
The Lake. Oh, Adrian Barry getting gazumped there.
Yeah. The Tribes.
Yeah. Accept that.
The Rossies.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
That's just a shortened version of their
name.
name.
It's not. It's on the list in front of me.
that's
The other name for Roscommon, by the way, is...
Come on, Bill.
Do you know the other name for Roscommon? According to this very reputable website I was looking at last night.
The Stone Throwers or something.
The Sheep Stealers.
Of course.
Some of these are questionable, including... Is it my go?
Yeah.
The next one, which is the Yates County.
The Yates County,
Awful
indeed.
name.
Yeah, that's like... Also, you could have gone for the Heron Pickers or the Magpies. Fun fact.
The Lily-Whites.
The Lily-Whites.
The Cats.
The Cats.
Well, yeah. Did you say football?
Or the model,
just the county in general, yeah. Loosely associated with GAA.
The Cats is...
It's not really a GAA question, but not really a sport question in general. Mick.
The Slaney Siders / Yellow Bellies.
That'll work. I'll accept that. The Slaney Siders is actually not written down here, but... yeah,
that's what Marty calls them.
Yeah, the Model County or the Strawberry Pickers also would have worked.
The O'Moore County.
The O'Moore County is right, that's Laois.
The Metropolitans.
I hope that's wrong.
Come on.
Accepted.
That's terrible.
It's on the list in front of me. The Dubs, the Metropolitans, the Jack / Jack Eanes, or the Liffey Siders.
The Liffey Siders.
I've never heard Liffey Siders once ever said.
There's probably 100 for the Dubs.
There's only 4 left. We're going to just have whoever's the last remaining person just get knocked out. That was Shane. Mick?
I'm running out of counties. I don't know anymore.
Got 4 counties left.
Yeah, I know who they are, but I don't know their answers. The Grania Whalers.
No, it doesn't work, unfortunately. Mick, you're out.
Who's the Grania Whalers?
Mayo,
I presume, is what you're...
Grania Whalers.
I don't know any of the 4 there left. That's the truth.
I don't know Mayo's nickname. But I'm going to go with the Slashers.
Correct. Longford. Or else the O'Farrell County also
true,
would
though,
work.
because that's like a club.
Well,
It was on the list in
it's on
front of
his
me.
list, Mick. I think you can't argue with that.
Shane,
Um,
there are 3
struggling. The Barrow County.
No, you're done. You're out. Adrian gets the point. You had 3 remaining counties. Carlow was one of them. You could have gone for the Dolman County, the Fighting Cock County, or the Scallionators is what Carlow is. Leitrim then, the Ridge County or the Wild Rose County, and Mayo, the Heather County, the U County, or the Maritime County, which I actually hadn't heard with regards to Mayo. So Adrian,
I think Slashers actually deserved the point there when it came down to
Good
it.
answer,
Good answer.
Rare
Mick,
credit.
you're leading us off here. Can you name a player who scored more than 1 try in the 2022 Six Nations?
Dan Sheehan.
Dan Sheehan is not correct.
Oh, Jesus. Did he not score against Wales?
Who's next?
Oh, no.
It is Adrian next.
DuPont.
DuPont is correct.
Oh, I was only thinking Ireland. Sorry, okay.
Shane.
Jesus, this is tougher than expected. Jesus.
Oh, wow. Do you want to just give me the point now? And
This is Adrian's round.
He can taste the particular type of cheese he had for each try as well. So
I think we have to buzz him out. Tap him out.
Jack Conan.
Conan, no, doesn't work. So the other 15 players.
The shortest round ever.
I would have gone for Keenan.
Keenan would have been not correct.
Would he not?
No, the players.
it feels like Sheehan and Keenan both scored more than once.
Josh Adams, Capuozzo, of course, Andrew Conway, Gail Fiku, Jamie George, Jamison Gibson Park, Darcy Graham, Chris Harris, Anthony Yalonch, James Lowe, Michael Lowry, Damien Pinot, Marcus Smith, Josh van der Fleer, and Gaban Villiers were the other players who scored at least 1 try, more than 1 try, I should say, at the 2022 Six Nations. So it is a 2-all tie as we enter round 4, which is the fun, free magic number round. Contestants get 3 points for getting the number exactly right. If no one manages that, the nearest contestant who doesn't go bust gets 2 points. The second closest gets 1 point. I'm going to say that we can only accept the answer that's written on your paper. I'm also going to ask for your pens once the music ends. So if you don't mind, give us the following number. The number of times Mayo have won the Division 1 Senior Football League this century, plus the number of times Leinster have won the Heineken Cup or the URC since Munster last won one of those trophies. And yes, that does include previous iterations of the URC. Plus the number of times Tiger Woods has won the Masters. Plus the number of teams in the League of Ireland Premier Division. Your 30 seconds expire when Sinatra sings Bright Shiny Beads.
Thank you to Ken for dropping me in a pen and paper here. Very important.
So the number of times Mayo have won Division 1 Senior Football League this century, the number of times Leinster have won the Heineken Cup or the URC since Munster last won either of those trophies, the number of times Tigers won the Masters, and the number of teams in the League of Ireland Premier Division.
Bubbles, bangles, bright shiny beads.
Alright, what have we got?
29.
Adrian's gone for 29. Mick?
My numbers don't add up here. I think it's 20. 25.
25. Shane?
I've gone slightly lower, 21.
Wow. You've all gone bust, which means we stay tied 2 apiece.
Oh no.
How do we sort a 3-way tie?
Munster. I wasn't thinking their URC title.
Mayo have...
Yeah, I was thinking Heineken Cup.
Yeah.
Damn.
Mayo have won the Division 1 Senior Football League twice this century, 2001 and 2019. Leinster have won 8 trophies.
I had 8.
Since the last time Munster won any of those. Tigers won the Masters 5 times.
Had 5.
And then 10 teams in the League of Ireland Premier Division.
Oh my God.
What? That doesn't add up.
I should have only been bussed by 1. but I think I added my
I
numbers
shouldn't have been
wrong.
busted all.
Oh, wait, hold on a minute.
I got 3 of them right.
Hold on a minute, my maths are wrong.
They're totally wrong.
15, 23,
24,
25, 25,
25.
25, boom.
Yes.
Sorry.
And it's because I added them up wrong.
Apologies. I was a little bit, I don't know, a little bit me, my brain doesn't work sort of there. So, Mick, you're on 5. Congratulations. You've opened up a 3-point lead on the lads, which makes everybody's
no
life a
luck
lot easier.
involved at all.
Apologies.
Wait a minute. It was a bit like last week's segment where Eoin was going through the permutations of the league. In the middle of it went the exact formula how it was going to all pan out. As far as I can tell, it was a bit like that.
I can usually get my numbers okay.
So that's not worked out at all well for me right there, is it?
Yeah, no, 25 is the answer, and Mick gets 3 points. We move on to the final. Our winner tonight will be decided in the rounds that separates the men from the boys. It's no team in particular, ridiculously easy rapid fire round. So the score you get in this round will be added to your score in the previous round. 40 seconds for everyone to answer from the same set of questions. We're going to start with Mick, then on to the person in second. We tossed a coin before he came on air. If it's Adrian versus Shane, Shane wins the toss.
Hannah not ahead of me. What did you guess?
No, if somebody gets a bang on, nobody else
gets points.
There's only 3 points up for grabs. Yeah,
I'll do my best for you there.
Yeah, so we start with Mick, then on to Shane, then on to Adrian. And if you get a question correct, I'll keep asking you questions until you get one wrong. And once you get a question wrong, I'll move on to the next person, and you get deducted a point. Mick McCarthy, 8 p.m. on his return. Are you ready?
I am.
Your 40 seconds starts now. In what year did Connacht win the Pro 14?
2016.
Correct. Who is top of the Women's Super League right now?
Chelsea.
Correct. Alex Dombrandt plays for what club?
Who?
Alex Dombrandt.
I don't know.
Harlequins. Johnny Sexton played schools rugby for which school, Shane?
Blackrock.
No, St Mary's. Who is the Ulster rugby head coach, Adrian?
I passed.
Dan McFarland. In what year did Galway footballers last win the All-Ireland, Mick?
2001.
Correct. Name the Ireland women's rugby head coach. Greg McWilliams. What is David Clifford's club, Shane?
That was
Mick McCarthy on his return gets the job done.
I'm annoyed though about the Greg McWilliams. Mark kept coming into my head.
That's perfection. He wins by distance and he's still annoyed.
Music and everything, yeah.
Give us your victory speech.
Owen, I'd like to thank you as the quiz master. I'd like to thank all the previous champions. I wouldn't like to thank the YouTube guy who wrote me out of history. But hopefully now my name goes back onto the roll of honour where it belongs.
We have taken out to chisel. Your name will once again be etched into the annals of history of the crappy quiz. You've been with us here on OTB AM. It's been brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Here's what we've got coming up on OTB Sports Radio today. We've got the football kickoff from 10:30, OTB Gold with Jason Sherlock from 1 o'clock, Friday Night Racing from 3 o'clock, and then Off the Ball is live on your radio from 7 o'clock tonight. We leave you today in the capable hands of John Giles.
All right, it is that time on a Thursday, just gone 7:30. John Giles is on the line. Evening, John.
Evening, Nathan.
So a decent week for the Republic of Ireland. They left it very late against Lithuania, a much changed side, but Troy Parrott scored the winner deep in injury time. That followed on from the draw against Belgium on Saturday. World number 1 team. Probably one of the better performances of Stephen Kenny's reign so far. I know you were at the Aviva on Saturday. What did you make of the performance?
I thought it was good, Nathan. Yeah, it went behind, as we know. But good pace about it, good tempo. Good goals, and a very, very good match. And I thought probably the best performance I think I've seen from the Irish team under Stephen.
Okay. Was it just the pace that they played at? Was it the way they set up? What was it that enabled them to play that well?
Well, first of all, you've got to have the setup, but you have to have the players, Nathan. And, the players did well. There were some outstanding performances. Young Ogbene.
Yeah.
Very, very good. What a promising lad. And you're talking about attitude. You're always looking for attitude. Well, I'm always looking for attitude. And this kid has a great attitude. He'll chase, he'll run, he'll score his goal. And he's a real capture for us. I just read in the paper there, I think it was today, he plays in the back four or something.
He plays as a wing back, with his club.
Yeah, amazing. To be able to, one of the hardest things in football is to play up front. And you normally see players, I've seen lots of players in my time start off as forwards and then go backwards to the old wing halves or even fullbacks. But I saw very, very seldom where somebody came forward. like this lad is doing now. He's doing a really, really good job. And, he's up front as we know. And like he's got Callum Robinson beside him. Robinson is a good goal scorer, Nathan, but he doesn't work all that hard.
Right.
He wouldn't be assisting him now up front and doing the running around. But he's a lad that he needs to be scoring goals to justify his position up front. Whereas you get a lad like Ogbene, runs around, chases, does it for the team and that. So he's a good discovery for us.
So you'd have Ogbene ahead of Robinson when you're picking the three for those attacking positions?
Definitely. Now, that might sound harsh on Robinson, but usually when you get a pair like that, and the goal scorer, which it would be regarded as Robinson, you live with him, not chasing around it. But this kid is scoring goals as well.
Yeah.
So he's doing the two jobs. But I think Robinson is only doing the one job, which is a very important job of scoring goals. But if I was picking one from the two, it wouldn't be Robinson.
That work rate as well that Ogbene has to go alongside the goals and the impact he can have in the final third, that work rate, it feels with him it's a little bit infectious as well, that the players around him are going to have to work that bit harder when you see the effort that he's putting in.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's an example to everybody else to do what needs to be done. Because as we know in football, there's two things in football that we know of. You either have the ball or you don't have the ball. And obviously, when you have the ball, you use it as constructively as you can. And when you haven't got it, you've got to get it back. I mean, it's 50%. You hear about tactics all the time. We do this, we do that. Now, the main two tactics in football, in my opinion, is when you have the ball, you're obliged to be as good with the ball as you possibly can. And when you haven't, everybody is obliged to get it back. Now, as you know, with a lot of players who play up front, they don't see that as part of their obligation to do so, because they say, well, we're scoring goals. I mean, Ronaldo would be a perfect example of that. Ronaldo's never chased around getting the ball back. We scored goal after goal after goal, as we know. But the ideal situation is for the forwards to score goals and chase around. You don't often get them. But as I say, I keep getting his name mixed up. Ogbene does that. He chases around, he's very good, and scores goals. He's a really, really good player for us.
He looks like he should be playing at a higher level than League One anyways.
Well, he could well do. I mean, he's playing in a team that's doing well at the moment, isn't he? So he might. If anybody watches him, you could say, well, this kid's a winner. They'll definitely go for him. I'd be surprised if somebody in the higher divisions or the higher division don't go for him.
Stephen Kenny, as we expected, went with his strongest starting 11 for the game against Belgium, made 6 changes for the match then on Tuesday. So maybe we'll read more into the Belgium game and go through some of the players and their performances and where you see them fitting in. Jason Knight started that game. If you think back to November, he came off the bench against Luxembourg, made a big impact. Wayne Rooney's been raving about him at Derby. He got the start as part of that front three, but maybe a bit deeper at times than the other two. What did you make of him?
He's good, and he's good. He's a good footballer. It's not difficult to fit into that position, but he did his bit. I think he can get better, and with more matches, I think he will get better. He was very good. Cullen was very good.
Yeah,
he's a lad now who's on the go all the time, trying to do something. Good attitude, and that's your starting point with any team, Nathan. What's his attitude like? What's he doing? Is he having a go? Because every player, no matter who he is, doesn't play well in every match they play, but they try to, and I think that's the thing that came out mostly from me from the match on against Belgium. That there was nobody not having a go, and they haven't got the ball, getting it back. It was a good all round performance, and I thought Jeff Hendrick was the best game I've seen him playing in for a long time, and he did his bit as well.
Josh Cullen,
it's very, very encouraging in that sense.
Yeah, Josh Cullen seems to become a very important player very quickly that there's no real like-for-like replacement. And I think you probably touched on this last year, that these players go from having 2 or 3 caps to having 15, 16 caps and be a lot more comfortable. He seems a prime example of that, and I think he's spoken about it, the extra bit of confidence of taking on a pass now compared to a couple of years ago where he might have played it safer. Are you seeing that in him, that he carries himself differently on the pitch now in the middle of midfield?
Yeah, I think so. We've always put that down to experience, because lads come into the team, they're playing with strange players, they're playing in strange setups, and it does take a bit of time. You get some lads come into it straight away, they're fine. Other lads, it takes them a little bit of time to settle into the team and get their confidence and play with confidence. And definitely there's a big improvement in young Cullen, there's no doubt.
Is he a good passer?
Yeah. He's a good all-round player, Nathan. I wouldn't put him in one category or another, but he's a midfield player that does his best to get the ball back. He uses it as well as he possibly can. He plays for the team, he does his work. So you can't ask for much more than that. I mean, lads can only do what they can do, and some lads are blessed with more ability than young Cullen is. But he does the best he can with what he has, and that's all you can ask.
Does seem to have a good partnership as well with Jeff Hendrick now, that they understand each other's game. So maybe that's why we're seeing that sort of performance out of Jeff Hendrick.
Yeah, it's an overall improvement with lads who have been in the team for a while, and it does take them a while to settle in, Nathan. But we're seeing the best of them. Like Saturday's game was a very, very, very difficult game. They went in front. I know they weren't playing with all their full players, but they had a lot of good players on the pitch that haven't gone in front. You think, well, they could go away with it now, but they didn't. That didn't happen. The Irish lads stuck at it, got back into the game, and by the end of the game, they were the better team. They could have won the match. So that's a good sign.
Defensively, it seems quite straightforward now, though Ireland have a lot of options with Coleman, Duffy and Egan. I heard you last Thursday night with Richie defending Seamus Coleman from the criticism he was getting from Jamie Carragher. I don't know if he could have done much more for the opening Belgium goal, and how you see him in a back three and the right of a back three compared to that usual role as a right back or a wing back.
Well, I think Seamus can play anywhere and give you what he's got. I mean, for the Belgium goal, I mean, it was a very, very well taken goal, Nathan. As soon as the player came inside, he didn't give the goalkeeper a chance to get settled. It was really well taken. He took it very, very quickly. He didn't give Seamus Coleman a chance to get back at him. It was a really, really well taken goal. But I thought, I'm a great admirer of Seamus Coleman. First of all, because of his honesty. When you look at players, no matter what position they play in, are they honest in what they do? I don't get anybody more honest than Seamus Coleman. And I think the point I was making last week was Callagher saying about playing for Everton, that he's because of his age, and I heard a few people say that. That's always the way. The people, critics, or anybody will attack players in a team that's not doing well like Everton, and they're usually the oldest guys. I had experience of it years and years ago. We played in the cup final against Sunderland with Leeds, and we got beaten at, and I think it was Bremner and myself. We were finished, we were done. I was the oldest in the team. We were finished, done, out of it, gone. Then we started the next season, went 29 matches unbeaten to go on and win the league. That's what happens with the press. They'll always pick, in my opinion, the oldest player, and because of his age. I mean, you saw it recently with Ronaldo, for example. He's 36. When Manchester United weren't winning a few matches there, it was Ronaldo. He wasn't doing this and he wasn't doing that. That's always the way. But with Seamus Coleman, I'd play. If I was picking a team for my life, Seamus Coleman would be in it.
Right. That's high praise.
Well, he deserves it. I mean, he's always been an honest. Like, I thought he was outstanding in against Belgium the other day, and he was playing in the back three, really. As we know, right back is his best position. But he'd give you a show anywhere, Seamus. He's just as honest as can be. A really, really top class lad.
How did you take the criticism after? Was it the '73 Cup final against Sunderland?
Yeah. Okay, and I knew it wasn't true. We had a bad day. We got a bad defeat. It was we were there for getting a hiding in the press, which we did. But when you're like after the match, we knew we didn't play well.
Yeah.
You know, Sunderland beat us. We didn't play well, but luckily enough, with being good pros and like Don, okay, after we got over that, he said, right, next year we go again, and we'll try and go through the season unbeaten. So in other words, it wasn't down. Sometimes if the spirit's not right, you lose a match like that, and everybody's getting onto each other, and you really collapse, Nathan.
Yeah.
We had to take it on the chin, keep quiet until the game started again next season, which comes around very, very quickly. Win or lose, especially when you win, it comes around quickly. You've got to go again, which we did. In fact, I think by the end of the season, Sunderland didn't get promotion, and we went on to win the league. That's the game. It goes from one year to the next, but you have to respond in the right way. It's no good. I mean, if I know good, me putting an article in the paper saying, well, I'm as fit as I ever was, I'm as good as I ever was, and so what? You know, journalists have their job to do. They do it on the day. But you have your job to do, which is to get over those particular things, bad situations, and go again.
I presume you weren't picking up the paper on Monday morning to see what they were saying about you.
I never did that anyway, Nathan, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, used to those, I think they haven't still, and the people used to do markings, you know, you got 7 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. And I learned very early on, now, don't even look at them, because I used to play in some matches, Nathan, where I was hopeless, very bad, and I'd be the star man. And then I remember playing in some matches where I played really well, and I got 5 out of 10. So I knew it was just, don't get carried away one way or the other. Just leave it as it is. Read the papers, but don't read them too much. And sometimes not read the papers at all, whether you play well or whether you don't play well.
You're lying there about Seamus Coleman, that if you had to pick a team and stake your life on it, Seamus Coleman would be in it. Who else would be in it?
Well, I think Duffy's done a great job for us, Nathan. I think he went out of his club team there for a while, and he was out of the international team for a while. But I think he's a vital member for us. You know, he's a strong centre half. He's called old-fashioned now. You don't expect him to get on the ball, but he gets the job done and gets it done really well. I think he's a very, very valuable player for us at the back.
I get the sense from listening to you, you like this Irish side. You like what they're about at the moment.
Yeah, well, we've got some good. Well, obviously we've got some good players. I mean, look at the goalkeeping situation. You know, Kelleher is brilliant, and then the other lad, I can't think of his name at the moment, comes into it. You know, we've got some good defenders. It's always the hardest to get a goal scorer, Nathan. You know, and hopefully we keep our fingers crossed that the lads are in now, and we've got Parrott coming along. Hopefully, who's going to learn his trade in a way that he has the ability to be one of the top class players. And if he's doing his stuff and he's playing up front for us and scoring, he scored a really good goal, as we know, against Lithuania the other day. But he's capable of doing it. He's got to get a grip of himself now. He's been at Spurs. He hasn't really done well for himself. I think he's got to get a hold of himself now and fulfil the promise that he's got. And it's always usually the last thing in a team to fulfil a team is to get the striker. They're hardest to get, Nathan. So hopefully we've got some now. And I think, you know, the defence is very, very good and has been for a long time. And we got the midfield players playing like they did, then we should get better and better, I think.
All our football coverage is brought to you by Sky. Don't miss Manchester United against Leicester on Saturday Night Football. That is live on Sky Sports. Let's talk about Tuesday then against Lithuania. You brought up Troy Parrott, and it was a heck of a strike. I think we all thought the game was done at that stage when he turned up and smashed one in from 25 yards to give Ireland the victory. Like, we were all guilty maybe of getting carried away about his potential a couple of years ago when he made his debut and he was at Tottenham and he was playing in pre-season, and you wonder, could he be next in line for Harry Kane? Could he be the first sub? And never quite happened for him. A couple of load spells. He's spent the season in League One. It's, you know, he's in a bit of good form at the moment, but there's been times where it haven't gone well for him. He gave an interesting press conference last week where he spoke about sort of grabbing the opportunity that is there from him and maybe realising, even when he was out of the team at MK Dons this season, that he's only going to get one shot at this career and that he needs to treat it properly, both when he's on the pitch but also maybe more importantly when he's off the pitch, and behaving in the correct way, preparing his body in the correct way, resting in the correct way. And listen, we see the potential that's there. He is only 20, so I guess it's a great thing that he's had that realisation now, before, instead of having it at 27, 28, and 10 years are wasted.
Yeah. Well, it'll be far too late then, Nathan. Now, the future will show whether he has got a grip of himself. See, you get a lot of talented lads, Nathan, as we know, and I've seen so many, in the past that say, "Oh, if only he did this, and only he has this." The main thing about football, or to be a professional footballer, or indeed anything else, is to put the effort in. That's your starting point. You don't even have to have a lot of ability to try as hard as you possibly can. And what happens with lads, I think, like Troy Parrott, they're very, very talented lad, and they think they have them made before they even start, Nathan. And I hope now he gets a grip of himself before it's too late to go on and be the player he should be. And the only way he'll do that is to work at it. Behave off the pitch and work on the pitch. That's your starting point. You don't have an awful lot of ability to try hard. I mean, one of the greatest examples of that would be Roy Keane. Roy Keane wasn't a blessed individual like Scholes or Beckham or Giggs, lads he played with. But by God, he had the attitude to do it. And he was able to dominate those lads that he played with because of his attitude. And that's mainly when you don't have the ball, to be able to chase around, get after people. Now, like Parrott, even though he's playing up front, or people like him, they can still work very, very hard, Nathan, when they haven't got the ball and be to the team. But what you find there is that he wasn't looking after himself. He hasn't been looking after himself. Now, hopefully, he's got it in his head. This doesn't last very long, Nathan. Careers go very, very quickly. I've seen it happen so many times with lads who start off very well, and then they get ahead of themselves, they get a big head, they're living it up and all that, carry on. And then before you know it, their career is finished. And I think this young lad, Parrott, has a lot of ability, Nathan, but he's got to now get a real grip of himself to become the player that he should be. And that's dedication, training, all the various things that you have to do. To make it in football is very, very hard work, Nathan. Yeah, and it continues to be hard work. No matter how many years you play, you go back pre-season training after 10 years, and you still have to put the same effort in, again and again and again and again. And that's the attitude he's got to get in his head. I mean, he's had a spell at Spurs, and he's had to move out of it. I think if he was really, really putting it in at Spurs, he would still be there, probably in the first team. So he's got to make the best of his ability.
Yeah, listen, it's very hard, I'm sure, when you're 17 and everyone's telling you you're the next big thing, not to believe it. And look, I think
you have to do it, Nathan. I mean, it's something that some lads have naturally. I've seen lads who are outstanding players at 17, and everybody's telling them how good they are, and they were good and stayed good and continued to work at it. Definitely, I've seen loads of them. I mean, there was young lads coming through at Leeds when I was there, Eddie Gray, Peter Lorimer, lads like that. They were dedicated even at that age to do what needed to be done. And lads do go astray. And I hope from young Parrott's sake that he does get a grip of himself now and fulfills his ability. Because it's a terrible waste for any lad, I think, not to do what's needed to be done. And before you know, you're finished and you say, what a mess I made of that. He has an opportunity now to come back in and fulfil the ambition or the ability that we've seen in him. He has the ability, there's no doubt. Now just work at it and do what's needed to be done.
All right, well, hopefully we'll see the very best of Troy Parrott over the coming years in an Ireland jersey. John, great stuff as always.
Thanks, Nathan.
Talk to John Giles next Thursday, as always, here at 7:30. If you missed any of that, you'll get it on the OTB Sports app. Sometimes he likes to play a lot of golf in the build-up to a major. Sometimes he likes to take weeks off. He skipped the match play, which is the easiest money you can win all year last week. Decided to go and play in Texas and felt that this is the best way. But especially with Tiger back, potentially, it feels as though in all the years that Rory's been chasing the career Grand Slam that this has been the most low-key, Joe.
Yeah, I think you're right. And probably because the expectation isn't that high either. As Richie mentioned there, so many bogeys today, so many birdies as well. You just can't get away with the kind of mistakes he's in the habit now of making for far too long. And so I don't think this year, based on his form, which isn't terrible, we should stress, and he could have easily won in the Middle East, But I would say of any of the last 6-7 years where he's been going for the career Grand Slam, I'd say expectation is at its coolest this time around. Most people you speak to are not expecting Rory to do something here. Now, of course, he's Rory McIlroy, so he could surprise us very quickly and get off to a gallop and lead from the front. His last 3 years at Augusta have been his poorest of the last decade or so. And I guess it's hard to know what to expect from him at this stage, but we're back to some of the same fundamentals, Nathan. The big three for me: the putting, he needs to have a better putting week than he's liable to have. The wedge game has not improved. That's the biggest concern for me. The wedge game has not improved, and Augusta's all about precision. And then thirdly, this is less of a concrete point and just more of a personal observation. I think increasingly he's struggling to play his best golf when the pressure is on. And I think that's a more recent phenomenon, but obviously the pressure is going to be on at Augusta. So I don't hold out huge hope for him this year, whereas in previous years I would have felt he had a great chance.
Well, exactly. And listen, maybe that is somehow going to come together for McIlroy, that expectation is low. And I think the one thing you always said about McIlroy is he was the best driver out there, and the stats don't back that up at all now. And while he played well in Dubai, he has done little or nothing since he got to America in the warm-up tournament. So unless he can find something over the next couple of days, he probably isn't going to be among too many people's picks. But again, all he got to do is win that, and we look back at his entire career in a very different way.
I mean, and you know, the nonsense of Al-Tawari saying that she needs to educate herself when, you know, it was 3 months ago that the Norwegian state TV crew was arrested in Qatar making a documentary about workers. So it's pretty hard to educate yourself when you're getting arrested for doing a basic journalistic job. And you know, the Honduran delegate, well, when is the time? Yeah, I mean, if this isn't the time, when is it? When was it? When should it be? Of course it's the time. It's a FIFA Congress in Qatar just before the draw. It's arguably slightly late, but it absolutely is the time. You know, we've seen Gareth Southgate attacked for some pretty basic and, you know, I thought uncontroversial comments about concerns. The fact that I think is it 16 different leading LGBT groups have written looking for assurances, and none of them have received a reply. I mean, again, these are really basic things, and that actually is what is surprising to me. That I think a lot of these issues were entirely predictable, and the fact Qatar has not prepared any kind of adequate PR response suggests to me they haven't a clue what's coming. I mean, there's going to be a lot of protests in November. You know, we saw, I think in quite a minor way, various issues in Baku and in Budapest with LGBT groups. I think they'll be ramped up massively in Qatar. Yeah, the lack of women's football is another issue that, again, I'm sure there will be protests, and there should be protests. And in a sense, if you are going to protest, this is the perfect time to do it, because this is when the eyes of the world are there. And so if there are arrests, or if there is, you know, any kind of over-the-top crackdown, then the world's journalists are there to report on it and expose it, and it could be hugely embarrassing for the Qatari state. But as I say, I just find it baffling that they haven't anticipated this and prepared better responses. And I think it's reasonable to say, will Salah be as effective a player away from Liverpool? You know, I think he's in a system that really suits him, both in the way that, whether it's Jota or Firmino, the way they drop deep to create space for him, the way he's got Alexander-Arnold going outside him, just the nature of that pressing game, I think it's perfect for him. You know, we've seen him playing for Egypt being far, far less effective in a different system. Now, obviously, international football is different, but you look at realistic suitors for him. PSG, maybe, if Mbappe leaves, well, yeah, PSG don't play in a coordinated way at all. You know, we know it's sort of 7 men sit deep, three up front, so he's going to have nobody sort of going outside him. You know, he's certainly not going to have players getting out of the way to create space for him, you know, given the nature of the egos in that front three. Or potentially Juve. Well, Allegri's football, it isn't that hard pressing. He doesn't really have a fullbacks getting forward the way that Liverpool's fullbacks do. So, you know, I think from Salah's point of view, you know, I get it's probably going to be his last big contract. I get that, yeah, he wants to maximise that, and he's got every right to do that. As you say, on form, he's arguably the best player in the world. He's certainly one of the best sort of 5-10 players in the world. So I get the argument entirely. He should be paid commensurate with that. On the other hand, Liverpool's been very good for him. And when he looks back on his career in 20 or 30 years, will he want the last 3 or 4 years to have been, I made a load of money there? Or would he want it to be, I won a couple of Champions Leagues and I won another Premier League and I was absolutely adored by a fan base who I'd had a good relationship with for, when did he arrive? 2015, so we'll be getting on for 10 years. And I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that some players still would take the latter view.
Look, I think they've exercised the last year's All-Ireland final out of that, and you could see, obviously, they would have done a review of the All-Ireland series last year and put the focus on starting way back in January, put the focus on getting up fitness, and because we've a different championship this year, and we've only 2 weeks between the league final and the championship, form is going to be hugely important because that takes you in to the Limerick game in 2 weeks' time. And Cork will have had the benefit of the game last Sunday. They have the benefit of the game next Sunday. So they're going into the Limerick match on a huge high. So you'll need a good performance now against Watford on Sunday in Thurles, and that's hugely important. And I think it'll set them up great for the Limerick match. And there's no All-Ireland scars always stay there, Nate. You'll never exercise those. You remember.
But do they come back to the surface if in a game like on Saturday night you end up losing that match?
That's where you lead. That's where you need the leadership then, and that's where Coleman and Fitzy have to stand up. I think they're young enough now. They're there since 17, so they've had 5 years of Munster Championship, All-Ireland final. They've had experience of all of that, and now is their time. Like what Jimmy Barry had earlier on, going back a few years ago. Young players, exciting players, mobile players, talented players. Who are good hurlers, athletic. Like Fitzy was outstanding last Saturday night against Kilkenny in the park. That goal typified his performance. And, he was quiet enough last year, but, himself and Coleman have really burst on the scene in the last few years. And now it's their turn to stand up. And it's a new era. Patrick Collins in the goal. All of those players, Tim O'Mahony, Robert Downey, they need to put their own stamp on the game, their own stamp on Cork hurling, and build now for the next few years.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.